Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Professor Kauligi Raghavendra, Vice Dean for Global Engagement in the Viterbi School of Engineering. Welcome, everyone, to this AI Summit, pre-summit organized by the IIT alums and USC Viterbi School and Indian Consul General in Los Angeles. So I'm just taking a few seconds just to welcome everyone for the event, and we'll have the first session of the opening remarks as soon as Parag introduces himself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's turning out to be a very fascinating evening. Whenever we have words like creativity, intelligence, ethics, which are sacred words, have computation attached to them, there needs to be a conversation, and this is one of the many conversations happening. So please enjoy yourselves, and we'll start with the evening.
We'll start with the opening remarks session. I would like to please welcome Yanis Yorso, Dean of the USC Viterbi School of Engineering, to make opening remarks. He's been Dean for many years, and he's a member of the National Academy of Engineering. Most importantly, he has been to India 18 times. Yanis?
Well, thank you. So let me define for you many. It's 18. And also, I thought he was going to say that actually I'm a foreign member of the Indian National Academy of Engineering, which I find to be, maybe if you do this 18 times, they give you that title. Maybe that's what happened. I'd like to welcome everyone. I think this is a wonderful event to have here on the USC campus. As you know, the USC cricket team is actually better than the Mumbai Tigers or whatever it is. Anyway, this is what I hear. Okay, thanks. And so it's really a pleasure to have you here. I'd like to acknowledge also in the audience our Vice President for International Affairs, maybe, Anthony Bailey. He's here in the back. And also our former Vice President for Research, Randy Hall. He was someone. Is Randy here? There's, right, okay, over there. So these are celebrities of their own kind. I would like to say a few words about my take on AI quickly, and then I will also mention some things about the partnership that we have in India, which has been going on for a very long time. I was asked to give a plenary lecture in the National Academy of Engineering meeting in October on AI and engineering education. Now, I'm a chemical engineer, and the audience was mostly other people like computer scientists, and I thought I was going to be killed by talking about AI. But fortunately, everybody was nice to me, and so I want to show you one slide that summarizes what I think in general. So I'll put it here. I look at so the question that I want to ask is, what remains constant in the future? And I think what will remain constant in the future is the fact that we will always try to have what I call sustainable prosperity. I don't use the word sustainability. Sustainability has a bit of a negative connotation, particularly in this country. And I use the word sustainable prosperity, which actually is the right way by which in Greek they call sustainability. So take that into account. We will also want to worry about security of all kinds, whether it is cyber or shelter and infrastructure. Health is a very big part of what we will do in the future. Always we're going to worry about that. And the fourth is, of course, obviously enriching life. I call this a Maslow hierarchy for humanity. Maslow hierarchy for individuals is sort of similar to this, but actually I translate this into this. I map it into that. So that triangle here is, people call it a pyramid, but actually I corrected it, simply a triangle, is something that I expect it will remain constant. What changes is obviously computing, and advanced computing changes extraordinarily fast. Over here, you have the variation with time, probably, maybe approaching a singularity. This is not simply exponential, it's much faster than that. Kurzweil mentioned about the singularity is near. I don't know how near it is, but definitely we're going very fast today. And I say that if you add this triangle with this hyperbole, you're going to get a double helix. That's my equation. So here it is. So this double helix has two strands. One is technology, and the other is humanity. And these are intertwined as never before. And today, we are actually living this intertwining between humanity and technology, and I think that's the fundamental question of the future. As you can see, people talk about the AGI and other things as well, but that, I think to me, that's the most important thing. And is, in essence, calls for so this is my symbolic equation, and it is essentially require the human in the loop, and that's the most important thing that we have to have. I think this is how I'm expressing this. The human in the loop requires that we have huge, very strong domain knowledge. So this is outstanding competence. I think we as engineers, for example, we need to understand very well and completely our field. I don't think we have to relegate the future of a particular discipline to AI, but also requires outstanding character, because this intersection here is one of values, and the question is what are our human values that survive in the future, and I think to me that's an important part. Whoops. And so that's my equation. I don't want to show you anything more. I don't have Greek letters here, so this is simply symbolic equation of a triangle plus, and that's, I hope that, I mean, I think that a lot of the things that I describe here probably will be reflected in the lectures that we will follow in a moment. I do want to take you a little bit back on the history of Viterbi School of Engineering with India. So this is we have a board in India, an India board that was established in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a picture of the board meeting in December, last December. You can see some of the, that was an event that was attended by President Kim, who came to India. You can see notables like Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, who is actually the biocon person, Narayana Murthy, who is an icon in India. They have been on our board since 2011, so we have this strong partnership with them, plus many others as well, and you know, some of us who are there. And then we had actually an India AI panel, which was in Bangalore on January 18, 2024. This is the panel including AI innovation within health, advanced manufacturing, and sustainability. Professor S.K. Gupta, Mr. Dilkina, Professor of Computer Science, and our very own Professor Sri Narayanan, and Vice President of the university, who is here and also will moderate the next panel. And this was moderated by Saritha Rai, who was a Bloomberg journalist, and actually she moderated the panel. She's a good friend of the school. And so I wanted to show you that we actually discuss these issues as we go to India pretty much every year. And then I will close by last December, we had a big event in India in which we call it the USC India Awards, happens on December 7. We gave awards to Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, to Narayana Murthy, and you probably recognize in that picture also Chandra, who runs Tata company. We honored the memory of Ratan Tata, who passed away about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken, and this was actually a very nice event for that, because Ratan was also a USC trustee as well, and a member of the National Academy of Engineering as well. And because we also like celebrity, you can see here Madhuri Dixit, who is actually a parent of two kids, of two boys. One graduated already from computer science or electrical engineering, and the second one is also doing computer science. So this is, we took advantage of the fact to take a picture. I don't know if she put it on the Instagram or not, but definitely she has like millions of followers, as opposed to us, we have very, very few. So I just wanted to close this, and again, welcome all of you for being here. The partnership of USC with India has been strong and over very many years, and we look forward to keep developing it and expanding it, not only in engineering, but other parts of the school. from the Marshall School of Business to many other areas as well. And so thank you for being here. And I'd like to ask, get it. Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Something to drink. I believe we will introduce the. Okay. All right. So do you need this?
Thank you, Dean. And welcome to everybody. And now, like after USC, it's IIT's part to welcome everybody. I am the board member with IIT Alumni in Southern California, and we are very honored to host this event along with the CGI and USC. Thank you for providing us the venue and everything to make it happen. So, you know, USC and IIT are very similar, right? We both are engineering organizations that people feel proud to belong to. But on top of it, we have some IIT and USC alumni. Can you guys raise your hands who are IIT and USC alumni? Thank you. So, making everybody proud. So now we are practically USC people, and I imagine, I love coming back to this campus. It's so beautiful, even though I went to UCLA afterwards. But so there are a lot of important people in the audience, and I think everybody has, like, I'd like to mention a couple of them. From the mayor's Bass's office, we just have Vajenda joined us. He is the Director of International Affairs. And Vajenda, do you mind? We would like to give you a memento from. And now for the fun part of the event. I would like to introduce Ambassador, Consul General, Dr. KJ Srinivas, is here on the podium. Well, there's no podium, but here in front. But before he comes and joins us, I do want to talk a little bit about him because he is the first ever Consul General for the new Consulate General of India in Los Angeles. And he's the right choice because he's extremely vibrant and energetic and enthusiastic. And I don't know how much energy he has because he's constantly attending and providing and helping 4 to 5 events a day. And I'm still not tired. So in his 23 years of diplomatic career, he has been to Johannesburg, Peru, Madrid, Guyana, all in 4 different continents. And I first met him, I think it was a couple of years ago at San Francisco when he was deputy consul over there, 2015. Well, it just looks like it because you still look the same. So, really, the other part is that he is really a trained medical doctor, and so he knows both, like how to understand people as well as a doctor, as well as diplomatically. So I would love to welcome Dr. Consul General or Ambassador C.D. KJ Nivas, Dr. KJ Nivas here. Srinivas.
Thank you, Smitaji. Thank you for that introduction. I'm going to use the podium. Thank you. So good afternoon, namaste. It's wonderful to be here at USC, my first time, of course, but as I was meeting the distinguished faculty and all the friends here, you know, it gives goosebumps. I just told them that I'm meeting the cream of USC, and maybe this is like an invitation for all of us to be attached more to USC in the future. So, distinguished faculty and leadership of the University of Southern California, esteemed friends, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues from the government and policy institutions. It's a wonderful moment for me, a pleasure to be here at the USC for this AI Impact Pre-Summit event. USC, I feel, is a very fitting venue for this dialogue. Few institutions combine, as USC does, the deep strengths in engineering, medicine, be it public policy, the creative industries, or the communication. This particular interdisciplinary authority or the capabilities which I feel are precisely what the future of AI requires. Because AI is no longer a purely technical domain. It has now encompassed ethical, economic, and societal domains. Friends, as we are all aware, we are at a very defining moment in the AI journey. AI today is a general purpose technology, which we can actually compare to, say, electricity or the internet in its systemic impact. But it's also reshaping how we diagnose diseases, generate knowledge and content, and govern societies or even make collective decisions. The real question before us is not whether AI will transform our world, but how we shape the transformation, how we use AI, and whether that AI or this transformation is guided by, say, trust, collaboration, and shared values. Being the representative of India, let me introduce you all to India's approach to AI, which includes maybe scale, inclusion, and trust as its main thrust. For us in India, of course, AI has been quite new, but India right now is approaching AI with a clear guiding principle. We believe that AI must be inclusive, responsible, and impactful at scale. Our national efforts include the India AI mission, which focuses on computing infrastructure, data sets, skilling, and startup innovation. All of you would be aware of India's globally recognized digital public infrastructure, including our UPI, our DigiLocker, our national ID card called as the Aadhaar. All of these are now increasingly AI enabled. A strong data governance framework, including the DPP Act, as we call it, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. On the ethics side, the ethical AI principles which are articulated by Niti Aayog. I just met Professor Surya Prakash, who is a part of it. We emphasize fairness, transparency, explainability, and human oversight. Today, all of you are aware, we are now the largest population in the world with over 1.5 billion people, but India's lived reality, as we call it, across diverse languages, income levels, and geographies, we offer a unique test bed for AI that must work in real-world complexity, not just in controlled environments inside the labs. Being a doctor myself, I thought I'll just touch upon what AI and healthcare are about for India. So healthcare AI is perhaps the most compelling of the examples where technology, policy, and ethics converge. In India, AI is already being deployed for early disease detection and medical imaging. We have AI-assisted diagnostics in the rural and underserved areas. We have the predictive analytics for public health and epidemic preparedness. We have the digitized health records and personalized care pathways. So what makes this relevant for global collaboration is scale. So India demonstrates how AI can be integrated into public health systems, serving millions, while institutions like USC, maybe through its Keck School of Medicine or the Viterbi School of Engineering, and of course the health AI research initiatives, the advanced cutting-edge innovation in clinical AI, bioinformatics, and translational medicine. I also strongly believe that a natural opportunity exists for India-California collaboration, especially in areas such as AI-driven population health, ethical use of medical data, clinical validation of AI models across diverse populations. Together, we believe that these efforts could help ensure that healthcare AI is not only innovative, but equitable and trustworthy. The other aspect of AI is generative AI. The generative AI represents another profound shift-changing concept where how the content, the knowledge, and creativity are produced. We all know that Southern California stands at the global intersection of media, AI, and storytelling, if I may call it so, while India brings unparalleled linguistic, cultural, and creative diversity. So this convergence raises important questions. How do we ensure attribution, authenticity, and protection of creative rights? How do we prevent misinformation and deep fakes without stifling innovation? How do we build multilingual and culturally sensitive generative models? So in this, USC's leadership in communication, AI research positions, etc., I believe uniquely address these questions. India, with its emphasis on multilingual AI and digital inclusion, offers complementary strengths in this sphere. So in India, we believe that generative AI must evolve not only to be used as a productivity tool, but as a responsible creative producer or a partner, which is guided by transparency, ethics, and respect for human agency. No discussion on AI is complete without addressing governance issues. So India believes that trust is the currency of AI adoption. So without public trust, even the most advanced technologies will face resistance. So our approach to AI governance emphasizes the following: principle-based light touch regulation, context-specific safeguards rather than one-size-fits-all rules, regulatory sandboxes to encourage responsible experimentation, alignment with democratic values and human rights. So at the global level, India supports pluralistic AI governance, engaging actively at the G20, the UN, and other multilateral fora. We believe that such global norms must be inclusive, reflect diverse societal contexts, and avoid fragmentation. As I was mentioning, maybe we should explore what I call as the India-California Strategic AI Corridor. India and California can form one of the world's most dynamic AI corridors. California, as you all know, brings foundational research, venture capital, and commercialization. India contributes scale, talent, and real-world deployment. So joint efforts in generative AI, healthcare AI, climate modeling, and AI governance can set global benchmarks. So in that regard, I want to assure all of you that the Consulate General of India in Los Angeles, we are committed to facilitate this university-to-university partnerships, startup and innovation exchanges, policy and research collaboration. Friends, as you're all aware, this pre-summit to the main summit in India, I just want to give a couple of notes on the summit which is going to be happening in India in February 19th and 20th in New Delhi. So this global AI summit will be the first to be held in the global south. So we are positioning this summit as a shift from what we call as the AI safety and action discussions towards practical impact and deployment objectives. So we are trying to see how best we can utilize this AI Impact Summit. Of course, this will be attended by top CEOs from all the important companies of the world who are into AI. We are trying to see if we can work together with these international tech leaders, political leaders to forge shared agreements on AI's purpose and responsible use. The themes, of course, we call them the chakras, are on human capital, inclusion, safe and trusted AI, innovation and efficiency, AI for economic and social impact, and democratizing access to AI tools and resources. So we aim to forge multilateral collaboration frameworks that balance innovation and governance and risk mitigation. Indian companies, friends, are aligning product showcases in the summit, with the summit, including homegrown large language modules. And at the same time, we are working beyond the summit's week, basically. The summit is just not a two-day conference. It's planned as a platform to operationalize AI commitments, connect policymakers with all the private sector leaders, be it investors, entrepreneurs, and to accelerate ecosystem-wide investment and deployment. So this pre-summit at USC is an important step in shaping the agenda that we are planning at this AI Impact Summit in India. So let me conclude with three reflections. First, AI's future must be collaborative. No nation or institution can shape it alone. Second, AI must remain human-centric, serving dignity, inclusion, and opportunity. Third, responsible AI is not a constraint on innovation. It is its own foundation. We look forward to working with USC, with this Southern California or the full California state innovation ecosystem, and with global partners to shape an AI future that is inclusive, ethical, and transformative. I invite all of you to join in this journey and to join us in India in February 2026. Thank you for this opportunity.
I'd like to call the Dean to present the memento.
I don't have millions of followers.
That's okay. Thank you. Next, the Dean mentioned Tata Group of companies, and I also wanted to point out that in this audience out here, we have Kamal Badada, who is the president of TCS, also here. Next, I wanted to introduce Gaurav Sukhatme. He is the Executive Vice Dean of the Viterbi School of Engineering and also the director of the newly founded School of Advanced Computing. And also, I must say, a very good classmate and friend of mine since my old days.
Thank you. Can you hear me without the mic? All right. All right. Yeah. Thanks so much, Parag, and thanks to both you and Raghu for. I'm defeated. All right. Thanks, Parag and Raghu, for setting this up, and it's really a wonderful gathering. I thought I'd take a few minutes to walk you through some exciting new developments in computing at USC. I thought maybe we should start with a brag sheet. We're amongst friends, so I think it's reasonable. One of the things that's underappreciated about USC is that we have had a very long-standing footprint in computational work, going back 60 years. USC was at the forefront of the creation of the internet through the USC Information Sciences Institute, which has been a part of the Viterbi School of Engineering for 50 plus years. The US government keeps track of where it spends R&D money across universities in the United States. When you look at the money, the dollars spent in R&D expenditure by the US government in computing and information sciences, USC is always in the top 5 across all universities in the United States. And this has been true for several decades now. And this is not just R&D in computer science. It spans electrical and computer engineering, other departments in engineering, many departments, many science departments in our Dornsife College, several other places, data science department in the Marshall School of Business. So there's a real span of research activity in computing, which is really long-standing and goes way back. We have a vibrant industrial and systems engineering department that does core computational research and has done for many decades as well. We've produced a large number of computer and information sciences graduates, by some measures, perhaps the most of any in the United States. So there's a large footprint. Right? I'm not going to read out all the advantages on the brag sheet. So one of the things that came together over the last 2 years was USC decided to make a major investment and build on this legacy by the creation of a new school dedicated to computing. It's our newest school. It operates as a unit within the Viterbi School of Engineering. It's sort of a school within a school. And it's really USC's nexus for all advanced computing research and for education in computing across the campus. Our mission is that any student who comes to USC, irrespective of major, leaves with a firm grounding and expertise in modern computation techniques and tools. And this is, we're doing it at scale, right? With thousands of students a year. There are programs in computing and AI for virtually any major. We have a AI minor that we offer, which you can take at USC if you come here to study any major. So you could be an economics major, a cinema major, a chemistry major. I see Surya, so I said chemistry. And you can take a minor in AI, right? And we think that these are some of the kinds of enabling things that universities have to do in the modern age, where new kinds of ways of impacting older disciplines are being born through computational techniques and through AI. The school itself brings together several pieces of the USC computing ecosystem, which is what this graphic comprises. We have 2 vibrant institutes on the west side. I already alluded to the Information Sciences Institute, which has a 50-plus year history in computational work. We also have the Institute for Creative Technologies, which is a U.S. Army UARC, a research center funded by the U.S. Army. And we have a variety of other pieces to this story. We are on our way to building new programs, hiring new faculty in computational areas across all facets of computing, not just in engineering, but in our science departments, in the business school, in medicine, and in a variety of other areas. So it's a very exciting time for us in this respect. One of the cool things about our approach to computational work is that we understand that computation and AI is revolutionizing every other field. So it is not simply a matter of recruiting more computer scientists, right? We are recruiting actively in collaboration with our colleagues at the Keck School of Medicine, people who are working in computational medicine and health. We are recruiting actively for faculty who are working in computing and security. We're working actively in areas of computational science, where people use computational techniques to model materials, biomaterials, inorganic materials, and so on. So there's just a plethora of computational activity across the university. And USC is one of the few universities that has recognized and has laid down a marker that a modern approach to computational innovation spans the university. It's not a matter of just investing more in computer science, which we do at a tremendous rate also. So we have some innovative majors. I think the Consul General alluded to the idea that AI is not just a technical discipline anymore. So roughly 4 years ago, our dean, Yanis Sortsos, collaborated with the dean of the business school, Jeff Garrett, to put together collaboratively a new degree called AI for Business. And one of the persistent questions he often gets, or I often get, is, so when the student gets their diploma, who signs it? Is it an engineering degree or is it a business degree? And we say, both. And they're saying, no, I don't understand. Is it an engineering degree or is it a business degree? And we say, both. And it's sort of mind-boggling to people that you could get a degree from 2 schools, which is not, it's not that you major in one and minor in the other. It's not that it's really one, but we sort of sneak in the other. It's really a degree in both, right? And this is the way USC tends to think innovatively. I just picked that as one example. We are starting a new degree entirely dedicated to technical innovations in AI. So starting this fall, we will start to enroll students who get a BS in AI. This doesn't mean a BS in computer science. It means a BS in AI, which means when you leave, you have the foundational mathematics, you have the foundational subjects on how you build the hardware ecosystem for AI, and you know how to train models in one degree. Too many places, when they give you a BS in AI, give you a subset of computer science. Not at USC. Send your kids here. Okay? And then, of course, we have an AI minor that's launching soon, which allows people to pair their degree with an AI minor. We already run an applied AI minor for students who want perhaps a less technical approach to AI, but want to learn how to use AI paired with their major. So there are lots of interesting educational things coming out of this new school, and we're proud that in engineering, we're able to contribute to the bigger ecosystem, workforce development in interesting ways. I did want to mention that USC alumni tend to do really, really well, so I just sort of picked out a few. In fact, there's a startup that tracks USC startups. And so if you want to look at that, that's the URL at the bottom. And so there are about 330 USC co-founded companies at that URL. So if you're interested in that ecosystem, please look us up there. We're very proud of all of them. I picked 3. Yanis alluded earlier to Professor S.K. Gupta, who co-founded Gray Matter Robotics. They're going gangbusters. They're based here in LA. It's a robotics company. I picked physical intelligence because the CEO, Carol Hausman, was my former PhD student, so I'm intensely proud of him. So I take every opportunity to brag about that. I'm not involved with the company at all, by the way, but just do. And then Harvey, which is legal services enabled by AI, was co-founded by one of our computer science grads, Gabe. And it's absolutely a going concern. They've been around a lot longer. And so these are kind of, just examples, but the full list, or at least something approximating the full list, is at the bottom. And I just found it cute that there was a startup that just tracks these, right? I think they're expanding to other universities. I don't think there's a business model just to track USC startups, but that was kind of cool, right? So I leave it there, and I think my next task is to introduce our keynote. And so I'd like to say a few words and embarrass Prem before he comes on stage. So I actually printed out a lot about it. But then I realized that Prem has many accolades, and if I read all of them, then he is not going to be happy. So I'll say a few things about him. So Prem Natarajan serves as the chief scientist and head of enterprise data in AI at Capital One. He's been there since 2023, I believe. And he manages all AI technology strategy, all AI technology tooling and architecture, and all AI development for Capital One's enterprise data, for all their machine learning efforts, and all their analytics suite, which is all AI enabled, needless to say. So he is, in fact, the head of AI at Capital One. Prior to Capital One, Prem was at Amazon, where he served as a vice president at Alexa AI. And earlier in the career, and continuing, he was a member of our faculty here at USC, and he was the executive director of the Information Sciences Institute. And under his leadership, the institute really grew by leaps and bounds. And so we always fondly remember that there was a flowering of new initiatives at ISI due to Prem's leadership. Prem received his doctoral degrees on the East Coast at Tufts. But really, we think of him as a California native now for the last decade and a half. While being in industry, Prem also convinced the National Science Foundation to partner with, in his case then at Amazon and now with other companies, to co-invest in research at universities and set a model for how co-investment from industry and the government could result in funding fundamental research at universities. It's a model that has attracted a lot of attention and continues to this day, and a lot of people don't know that Prem was fundamental in creating it. So Prem, it's a great pleasure to have you and to hear about your thoughts on AI and technology more generally.
Thank you, Gaurav, for that intro. Yeah. it's in slideshow.
We've switched computer sources,
Okay.
and then you want to click on the slide adventure
Yeah.
to make sure it might be
Okay. Is this one or that one?
this one.
This one? Okay. Okay. I think the logistics are out of the way. Welcome everyone to the USC and to this event. I first have to thank Yanis and Gaurav and our first ever Consul General for inviting me to be part of this event. Delighted, it's a privilege. Growing up in India, I don't think I would have foreseen 3 or 4 decades from then that I would be at an event in the US, in California, celebrating the launch of the first Consulate General in LA, when something we've been waiting for a very long time for. I can also tell you that my wife and daughters are very excited that they have no idea what I'm talking about right now. My daughter is a student here, so she does have an idea, but that at this event, so delighted to be here. I thought today for the event, I'll just talk a little bit about where we are today in AI, how we got here, the evolution of AI, and then maybe share a few thoughts on how I think AI is transforming the modern enterprise, especially from a financial services perspective. But I think this transformation is happening across many different industries. And so the first thing I'll say, though, is 3 seminal events defined the start of AI. And I think, given that we're in LA, I should tell you that the first of the 3 seminal events that created the community of AI was actually this thing called the Session on Learning Machines that was held here in LA. And many of the names that later became very familiar names in AI, including Oliver Selfridge, who was at BBN, where I was for a while, was at that thing. And that event, some of the proceedings from that are fascinating. Optical character recognition was discussed by Oliver. He also talked about chess. So many of the problems we have come to associate with have always been part of the kind of imagination of people involved in AI right from the very start. But it also set the stage for what became the defining project. The summer research project on artificial intelligence that John McCarthy, who was an assistant professor at Dartmouth at the time, proposed. The opening of that, and it was a proposal to the government, says a 2-month, 10-man effort to do this. So in 2 months, 10 people were able to define something that we all now practice as a big field. That's when the phrase AI was coined, artificial intelligence was coined. All of this started in the US. I just want to point out, it started out in the West as you can get, LA. It moved east to Dartmouth, right, the East Coast, kept moving further east to the UK, right? I've always loved how the moment it goes to the UK, not only does it go east across the pond, as they like to say it, but look at the language change. Right. Session on learning machines, summer research project on AI, mechanization of thought processes. That kind of feels like somehow uniquely British in its way. So like so many good things, I'll just say it started in LA. Willis Ware was the chair of this 1955 session. This quote has always kind of captured my attention because it tells you of the optimism that has pervaded the field of AI from its very first months and moments, right? Back 7+ decades ago, he said, in the relatively near future, considerable portions of the activity of the human brain will be reproduced in machines. But that, people never, AI has gone through many winters and springs, but through it all, there have been people who have believed in this promise, and today we kind of stand on the threshold of the redemption of so much of that promise. I have a much longer version of this history that I had first put together like many years ago for a different talk, but I created an very abbreviated version for this, and Dr. Srinivas, I'd be happy to share some of these with you. This is 7 decades of progress, but there's also a connection here with USC that I want to talk about, which is Warren Weaver, even before the field of AI and the session, the language instinct has been very core to our perception of intelligence as humans. This is why we often think of people who talk fluently and articulately as being particularly intelligent. It's often true, but it's not always the case. But we associate language with intelligence. And so when Warren Weaver talked about translating documents from one language to another, this was at the peak of the Russia thing, et cetera, and all of it. USC had, I think, the first startup in machine translation by 2 faculty members from the Information Sciences Institutes, Kevin Knight and Daniel Marcoux. They called it Language Weaver. And the reason they called it Language Weaver was because of Warren Weaver. Okay, and so Yanis, yeah, I saw from your thing, yeah. But then you go through all of this, and then there was Alan Turing's paper on the computational machinery, and that's the Turing test many of you probably know about, which was an enduring test of intelligence until it wasn't. It's also interesting in AI, you set yourself a test, but once you pass the test, you're no longer convinced that that's a test of intelligence, and you want to find something even more challenging. And that's also been part of the history of AI here. But look at this, everything. Wabot was Waseda University in Japan's walking robot thing. So it started going across the world in terms of how this thing spread. And this is 7 decades. I ended this with the creation of the transformer in 2017, and then BERT in 2018, both of which came out of Google. And then these are equally salient milestones, but they're in a 3-year period, the last 3 years, right? So somehow the progress in AI has been, there's all these things that you hear about how you see further by standing on the shoulders of giants, et cetera. But the story of progress in AI is the story of platforms building upon platforms, and accelerating that progress until you get to an inflection point. And then this is essentially critical reaction point, and you see the explosion. But through all of this, I'll say, from 2022 to now, not only has the underlying technology continued to progress, in my lifetime, I've been in the AI space for like 3 decades. There was a time when we went out of our way to call it machine learning. We wanted to distance ourselves from AI because AI was considered the realm of people making up stuff. It was the world of logic and rules. And if you didn't want to call it rules, you called it logic. It was the world of expert systems. They didn't scale. They were fragile. They didn't actually work in production. So we said, no, I do machine learning. I learn from data. It's statistical learning, right? To where now everything is AI. But in all of those 3 decades, there's been a lot of machine learning that's made it into production. We don't realize it, but our lives have been actually enriched by machine learning for a very long time. Nothing of this space that has transformed it to the point where businesses don't ask, how much should we invest? They just say, what's the most we can do with everything we can put into it? So all of this though, the ChatGPT moment in 2022 brought it to a forefront. Why? Again, because of language. The fact that we could interact with something on the web in language form immediately convinced us that this is an intelligent thing, right? Language is very core to the human perception of intelligence. But from the early 2010s, we've been seeing machine learning at scale come in and change our lives. We've been interacting with all of these things that have been improving our experiences for many, many years now. Recommendation systems, et cetera. All of this was due to this new new neural network architecture, which we call attention-based architectures, called the transformer. Transformers have been used for language, but I'll say later, we're using it for other forms of data too, and very effectively. The transformer led to, I know some of this is so basic, I'm sure for a lot of you, this is like, come on, Prem, step it up. But there's also a lot of folks for whom I think it's useful to set the context here. This thing is important to keep in mind that the GPT, which is the generative pre-trained transformer, is trained on all of the information in the internet, right? But it's not trained, but only about, even though so much data is on the internet, about 15, 16 trillion tokens of data by the latest count, leaving aside, it still turns out, by best estimates, that 5 to 10% of the data in the world is on the internet. 90 to 95% of all the data in the world is behind enterprise walls, right? So even though this thing has learned so much from the internet, and it is so proficient at general language, so proficient at general things that you can find on the internet, one of which is code, which is why software development is so exciting, because there's so much data available on the internet. But a lot of the revolution that's happening is actually with the data that's behind enterprise walls and how we can bring that data to these models. But this starting point, where it's trained on everything in the internet, gives you a very capable trained model to start with that you can customize and bring your proprietary data to it and create your own proprietary AI. Gaurav mentioned Harvey before, but I'll say many companies are leveraging these GPT models with domain data to create capabilities that are changing many different enterprises or domains across the spectrum. Another important development recent in the last couple of years, and I'll say uniquely, Google has been the one that's been most committed to multimodality right from the start. If you look at some companies like Anthropic, they're entirely on text even now, and they've doubled down on it. Google's gone after multimodality right from the start, which is why many of the more exciting features that we're seeing coming out are coming from them. But we've gone from one modality to multiple modalities. This is changing knowledge work, especially creative work, across the enterprise in many, many ways. And then many leaders now, it started off with just OpenAI 2022. You now have all of these doing this. And I'm sure, every country that wants to, I have not shown much of the Chinese open source models, et cetera, but there's just a plethora of other models out there. These are just the ones that we use in here in our stack. Behind this, of course, is the whole notion of the AI stack. Everything, models are one layer of it. I think there's a lot of talk of AI sovereignty, et cetera. I think it goes to the whole stack. Models are just one component of it. The pace of innovation has been absolutely stunning. There have been benchmarks that have fallen by the wayside because within 18 months, performance in the benchmarks has reached close to 100%. So people have had to come up with newer and newer benchmarks. Models are way better. This MMLU benchmark is now essentially no longer used, because I'm showing you 92.3 in 2024, but it's actually at 99.7 now, and we're no longer using these benchmarks. Models are way faster. One of the other things in AI has been that we've always figured out how to make things faster and cheaper once we figure out how to do things right. What has never worked in AI and machine learning is try to do things efficiently and right jointly from the start. So trying to get things right first, this is, by the way, still kind of outdated already. It's like there's a Heisenberg to this. You can't make your slides fast enough, right? Because by the time you make those slides, they don't do it. I would say, even if you record some of this, do not post it online, because I'm trying to give you as many insights as I can. But the models are also way cheaper. People talked about eye-watering costs at one point. And this is cost via API for GPT-3 performance. GPT-3 performance may not be enough for most things, GPT 3.5, et cetera, but that's where the costs are right now. And when we build our own enterprise AI models that are customized for enterprise, and then we can distill them and make them smaller and run inference in our own environments, we can make them even more efficient, right? So since the coming of the transformer, I just wanted to fix one more notion. There are it's the first time where, if somebody in machine learning would say, I have data, I train my model, and then I use my model at runtime, right? We now talk about pre-training the model. Then we talk about post-training the model. Together, pre-training and post-training are training. There is no training. That's just how the language in this community has developed over the last few years. But pre-training is a step where it's consuming all the knowledge in the world and is trying to make sense of the world. It's not being optimized for any specific task. All it's learning is how to predict the world, the structure of the world itself. In the case of language, it just predicts the next word. And what this did, though, that sounds like a pretty simple thing, but what it did was one of the biggest blockers to the use of massive amounts of data in machine learning was that you had to annotate the data. Humans had to label and annotate the data so that you could learn from it. When the data was its own annotation, which is, I'm going to look at the first few words and I'm going to predict the next word, and then I'm going to look at all these words and then predict the next word, the data becomes its own annotation. In other words, it becomes its own supervision. This is why everybody calls this self-supervised learning, et cetera. But this thing is like a child who's extremely intelligent, but has no filter, right? Your guests come in and it says, yeah, my parents were just fighting. I don't think they like each other anymore, right? Kind of stuff. So we want to align that to our notion of human preferences. How do we want to communicate in this world? And so people came up with post-training to say, now I'll create some annotated data that aligns these with how I want things to behave, how I want this thing to do. And then, of course, then there is stuff like, my child is going to play doctor today, so I want to fine-tune it to be a specialist in that domain, and so there's fine-tuning of specific tasks. Or maybe we want to be a chemical engineer, and we want to talk about stuff, and then, you can fine-tune to it. All of this was on the training side. So when we're training the model, we're putting data into it, et cetera. But once that model is trained, we then use it. And all of that stuff I showed you about way cheaper, way faster, way better applies to all of this. But then humans do one thing. After we read everything, we learn everything that we can learn, we still reflect upon things. When a new question comes up and there is some uncertainty in that question, we reflect. And we take more time processing. The harder the question, the more time we spend processing that question. Even though we're applying the same knowledge to it, we're bringing a little bit more to it, which we typically tend to call reasoning. And so that's the same revolution that happened with LLMs too. All of this, imagine this, within 18 months, we were at the point where we were trying to do something that we called reasoning. And the reasoning was simply the models going back and reflecting, asking themselves the question again, but it unlocked a whole new level of performance for certain tasks. And we had, at inference time, this reasoning which said, I don't use compute resources just at training time, but even at runtime, I can use compute resources and do a better job of solving certain problems. Now, these reasoning models then, as we started doing different benchmarks, they started improving performance massively on some of these more challenging things, competition math questions, what's called abstract reasoning questions. But look at the progress even on these. This is the problem with all of these benchmarks. 4.0 was this, 0.1 was this, 6 months later, 0.3 is this. What does that mean? You need a new benchmark test, right? It just, any test that you specify, it just learns the heck and aces out of it. And look at this competition coding. According to this, software is a solved problem. It's not, but this tells you the challenge of setting up benchmark tests that do it. And again, the amazing thing is the proliferation of this technology. So OpenAI came up with O1, but then all of these came out with their own reasoning models as a fast follow. So with all of this, from an enterprise perspective, we were all looking at this and saying, this is amazing. What do I do with this to change the way in which work is practiced within enterprises, whether it's government or private enterprise, et cetera? In that same 3 years, what we have seen is a progression from an enterprise perspective, from a user perspective. The capabilities have progressed in 3 ways. First, general assistance. I can look things up. It'll tell me some things. Maybe it'll help me answer some questions, et cetera. To where they became co-pilots or co-doers of the work, where I can collaboratively work with them. To where now, I'm sure everybody who's reading about this, reading about the agentic stuff, where it's no longer just doing things you ask it to do, but it's able to complete tasks on your behalf. This is like where an employee goes from being supervised to just being directed to go do certain things, and then it can autonomously go complete some things. What does it need in order to do that, right? What it needs first is, when any of you have like kind of a vision for doing something, the vision is typically a complex thing. You have to break it down into subtasks or subcomponents of the vision so that you can mobilize a team around it and have them do it. So the first thing that you need to do if you have a complex task is to break it down into atomic tasks. That's classically a reasoning problem, right? So the first thing that once reasoning capabilities came about, we realized, oh wait, I don't need to try to do a complex thing at one shot and do poorly at it. Because what happened with generative models was as we started moving up from simpler tasks to complex tasks, they did not do very well. That's why, look at this, GPT-4o, which was amazing at generative tasks, was here on a reasoning task, right? So you needed to train a different model that was capable of reasoning. The second thing that came about was specialization and customization. This is where the proprietary data that I have in my enterprise comes in handy. Once I break it down into small tasks, I still want it to be done in the way that I would want my teammates to do it. And what tells people how to do it? It's the data that I have in my enterprise. This is how we practice our work. This is how we do our work. So specialization and customization became important. Knowledge engines, the state of the world changes all the time. I won't get into this, but thing is, the knowledge in the world is constantly updated, and now you have new things like MCP, the Model Context Protocol, et cetera, if you're reading about it. That's kind of an important way in which you connect to all of this. And then orchestration, right? Somebody needs to be making sure everybody's doing this work, things are keeping up to pace. Is the work of good enough quality? Does it need to be challenged? Do they need to go redo this work, et cetera? So we started saying, look, so much of our business process, the only way that this works, there is no general way in which you can just take things off the shelf and make it happen. So we started saying, in order to really harness the power of this capability, we have to build our own stack and be able to customize every element of that stack, because we want to bring our domain expertise and our data, embed that deeply into the AI, and then embed that proprietary AI deeply into our enterprise processes. When I first started this journey, many of the talks I say, your data advantage is your AI advantage. About a year later, I adapted it. Your proprietary data advantage is your proprietary AI advantage. And I think we're seeing time and again that is coming out to be true. A little bit of context. Maybe here I will channel my inner Gaurav and brag a bit, but this time about Capital One. So Capital One, what attracted me, a lot of my friends ask me, like, in the tech industry, your whole world, what are you doing there? It was really a conversation with the CEO, Rich. I realized that he was actually a tech-first thinker. And he understood the power of tech as a transformative force. And Capital One's investments in tech are disproportionate to our size in many ways. That's where we get our leverage. And so its founding is actually with data. It's a deeper story. I won't get there. But Capital One came into an industry that was quite mature, had been around for decades when it was founded, and found its own niche, and now it's grown pretty big. And that was because Rich understood the power of data and differentiated data and analytics from that data for decision making. There's a book by Thomas Davenport, Competing in the Age of Analytics. I think third, fourth, fifth chapter, I don't remember which one, starts with the story of Rich Fairbank, who is the founder of Capital One and is still the CEO. So you can go look at it. It gives you a sense of how you can transform a mature industry when you recognize, I think industries that are most ready to be transformed are actually tech industries. They just haven't recognized it yet, right? And so when I think about banking, I think even before computers, it was fundamentally digital. Nobody carried suitcases of cash around to actually transfer, right? It was all this thing. So we're just waiting for digitization. And so it's really a fundamentally digital business. And so we were the first bank to move all in on the cloud. In 2016, we decided we're going to go all in on the cloud, all in on a single cloud, because back then AWS was the only game in town. In 2018, Capital One built its 16th data center. By the end of 2019, we had no data centers, right? We were all in on the cloud. That has been a transformation, which means we build like cloud native developers. Our tech stack is modern. What also has happened is that all of our data is sitting in S3 next to the world's largest compute resource, which is EC and all the GPUs that Amazon has, which means we can make that flywheel turn that much faster. So all of this has been a journey we've been on for the last 12 years. We're also mostly employees, which is also unusual in the financial sector. The stack that we have built mirrors the stack that you'll see in the rest of the world. It's a very simple representation of the stack. Foundation models and LLMs, model services, reusable capabilities, and on top of it, there's another layer, I'll say, which is called well-managed interfaces, which might have observability and monitoring and all of that stuff. You also want to build in things so that you can actually record everything that's going on, so you can replay it and do continuous learning. A bunch of stuff that's inside the stack. But on top of it, all of our applications sit. This is how we develop today. We have dozens of applications now in production. All of them are built on our single enterprise-wide generative AI platform, right? And it takes real vision and courage to declare that we will do it in that way. And we did do it that way at Capital One. So right now, what do we have? Of course, this is pretty important to us, real-time fraud detection mitigation. So this is a pretty important application. I suspect we're industry leading in the performance of that. But even recommender systems, what we're finding is we have multiple sources of information, what products to recommend to people, et cetera. Transformer-based AI models are completely transforming the experience. Multi-agentic AI workflows, the first one we did was to enhance the, Capital One is also country's first or second largest auto lender. And we sell software to a lot of auto dealers to help them manage their customer experience. And so therefore that software was a perfect place to start putting AI in place, because you have the dealer salespeople on the back end trying to keep up with an incoming flood of communication. And so we said, gee, that's waiting for an enhancement of the customer experience. And so all of these are actually stuff that we are actually doing. We remain, for us, these are all kind of the different sources of data information that we have. And this is something that every bank has, right? It's not unique to us, but we just bring it to life in the way that we use it. We built the very first thing we did was we built our own Gen AI customer servicing tool. There's a little bit of a story here that I'll share. We also, everyone who knows anything about LLMs now knows RAG and retrieval augmented generation. But retrieval augmented generation in its most general form is when you train these models, you're training them on the state of information in the world that you've harvested at the time that you collected your training data. But the world is constantly generating new information. So in its most general form, retrieval augmented generation is a way of augmenting the knowledge in the model with knowledge that has come into the world after the model was trained. But it turns out from an application perspective, retrieval augmented generation allows you to constrain your responses in a way that helps you fight all of these challenges that you hear about, hallucination and things like that, et cetera. Our big advantage is we're not seeking to answer the world's hunger for general purpose information. We want to answer questions that our customers care about, that come from our curated knowledge bases, et cetera. And so this thing really is turned out to be a real powerful tool for us. And it's kind of a workhorse behind many of our applications. It's not the only thing, of course. There's many, many reusable capabilities. These are just timelines of activities. Those kinds of things help. You can model sequences. I was talking about transformers can model sequences. Words are sequences, but any kind of customer activities are a temporal sequence. And you can start getting in multiple sources of information and start doing that. So as I was saying, we've actually been following this track. And I'm using our example as a way to kind of bring to life what's happening in enterprises. But the best companies in the world are doing this. And if you're not doing this, I think it's going to be really hard to keep up with the expectations of your customers. It's very hard to provide your customers with the best service that they expect from you, right? And so all of this is going. This point, I'll say the multi-agentic workflow, agentic takes you from just answering questions, providing information, et cetera, to being able to take some actions, either on the customer's behalf or autonomously when needed, like if you're doing some defense of like defensive work in the cyber area, et cetera, you can have agents that are automatically working. For us, the very first instantiation we had of our agentic framework was a very simple one. Remember I talked about the reasoning piece? The first is just natural language understanding, right? This first piece, somebody's asking something, you try to understand what the query is. Second one is the planner. That's where reasoning comes in. What is the plan that I want to execute? Then you have an evaluation agent that challenges the planner. Is this plan good enough? Is this going to meet the objective, et cetera? Then there's an explaining agent that can explain whether to a human or to some other system that asks it. These things iterate, and then they produce an answer. Bunch of infrastructure elements on the bottom. You can go, if you live in the right neighborhoods, you can go use Chat Concierge. Many auto dealers now have this thing that work with Capital One, have the Chat Concierge capability. You can book car test drives and things like that. I'll just say this is kind of the thing I wanted to leave people with. Like a few months ago, I wrote a small thing and posted it. I think there's a lot of conversation about artificial general intelligence. And the thing that has always struck me about it is that the world is a very unconstrained space. And being able to navigate the world in a very general sense is a very hard problem. But within our world are a lot of mini worlds that are actually human design. So the thing that in the real world that we never know for sure is cause and effect relationships, right? It's very hard to say what is cause and effect in general. But in an enterprise system, which are worlds that we navigate every single day, humans have designed it. I can predict cause and effect because I designed it into the system. I call an API, I know what it's designed to do, right? So my view is that I think the first like a car that's driving around a city has to navigate the city, and the roads might change and things might change. It may not be documented anywhere, or there's a road blockage. If I make a change to an enterprise architecture, it's documented. It has to be documented because we can't put it into production without documenting it, which means I have a very completely described world. It's a very complex world, but it's very completely described, and that to me is the enterprise world. So I think the very first time we will see anything like a GI, general intelligence, will actually be enterprise general intelligence. Systems that can navigate enterprises, where enterprises give these systems all the knowledge, all their operating manuals, all the information, all the designs, where are my APIs. But because this means you're exposing your most valuable information to the AI, there's a very logical consequence to this, which is, I'm not going to expose this to any AI in the world. I'm only going to expose it to the AI that I build and that I trust. This brings me back to my notion that I think proprietary data and proprietary AI are the things that are going to transform this world. The general purpose stuff will always catch our attention, will always stimulate the imagination, but most of the action in the world is going to happen within enterprises. When we do this, we're also doing this from a very scientific, and we're not just like building things and integrating things, et cetera. We are actively building. I mean, part of what attracted me to Capital One was the opportunity to build the world's best AI team in finance. We started out to build it. 3 years from now, I can tell you, we are there. I mean, staying there takes a lot of effort, but we are there. Evident Insights is a company that does ranking of AI talent in banks. We've been #1 on talent 3 years in a row. The first time we entered it was about 9 months after I joined, when I started saying we should participate in these rankings. And a lot of detail here to go through, but not for today. I will also say, last year we were in the top 10 in generative AI and agentic AI patent filings, and we are the only bank. Okay, this is, thank you. We really are very satisfied with this now. We're also, Gaurav mentioned this, I really do believe, and Dr. Srinivasa, you said, inclusive development, collaborative development of AI. I really do believe that the hardest problems in AI cannot be solved within the confines of any single organization or country. I mean, this requires a mobilization of the best talent across the world. A lot of that best talent lives in academia. And so both at Amazon, where I had started the Amazon Hubs program, and here at Capital One, we've started, and these are all multi-year strategic partnerships. We make commitments for 5 years at a time and commit like certain amounts of funding every year. And we mobilize them around certain themes. So at University of Southern California, it's about Center for Responsible AI and Decision Making in Finance. At Columbia, it's Center for AI and Responsible Financial Innovation. We've done one at Illinois. We've also partnered with NSF. We're the first and only US bank to partner with the NSF. And I'll tell you, the institute that we have co-funded with the NSF, I'm sure it'll surprise you it's on mental health at Brown University. But why? Because in order to use AI for mental health, you have to solve a lot of trust problems around AI. Trust is key in finance too. We need to figure out how to make AI as trustworthy as it can be. So we take these are not the biggest parts of our investment, but we do invest carefully our seed crop in areas where we think 3 to 5 years from now, there's going to be a lot of payoff. And so at Cal, I can't but not talk about the USC connection. We're very excited about this partnership, which set up in conversation with Gaurav and Yanis. Shri is a big contributor to it. This is kind of what we've already seen in just about a year of having started this partnership. You will see the same thing with some of our other university things. But I will say this, I think the USC partnership is turning out to be very fertile and productive very early in this thing. Concluding thoughts, a slide. Say AI is pervading. I started off originally saying will pervade. You can see some of these slides I obviously reuse. So I said, but I struck out the will pervade and say is pervading every enterprise. Agentic capabilities are very much today's enterprise frontier. key capabilities required to manifest that are customization and specialization in addition to reasoning. I really do think that the first manifestation of AGI we'll see will be EGI. I also think, APIs are the exits on the road to AGI. I think you need an API world to have an AGI world. You cannot take action without APIs. The world cannot be actuated without an ability to do it. Robots, of course, Gaurav's specialty, do it in a way that the robot goes and activates the world in some ways, but that's how they bridge that gap. I'll just say last thing on this, talent and culture are destiny. You cannot outrun no organization can outrun its talent. So this is a thing to which I've come to great conviction over the years. And in fact, I would even take out culture. Talent is destiny. You cannot outrun your talent. So which is why we are investing in the best talent that we can afford to invest in. And we're building what I think is the world's best collection of AI talent in the financial industry, beyond the financial industry too. And the other hypothesis I have is that the long arc of AI increasingly bends towards centralization, because as information becomes the power through which you orchestrate, the more information is centralized, the more effectively you can orchestrate things. With that, thank you. Raghu is saying I should take some questions. If you have time, I'm happy to.
Yeah. Wonderful talk, very thought-provoking. Thanks for starting from the beginning. Another interesting, India Connection, 1947. That's a good year to start.
I know.
So good mnemonic. Since you're in banking and you're looking at AI, so since you're in banking and looking at AI, testing. Since you're in AI and looking at banking, a major concern right now here is, as we talk about the Star Trek utopia, if you will, of people doing only creative, fun things, there's a little bit of Star Wars, not so utopia challenge that people think about, in the immediate term at least. Would like to know your thoughts about how you are planning to address those challenges as part of your work and your research, what you're funding. How do you educate all these people to actually start using these AI tools as opposed to being afraid of them?
It's an interesting question. But I'll say, we actually very intentionally address it. So the way we have approached the mobilization development of AI includes a very explicit work stream on mobilizing across the company. And part of that mobilization includes actually a talent development work stream. Not only have we created content, we've created programs and engagement things. It's a very long-term investment, right? The thing is, if the transformation is going to be so enduring, what is the crisis of urgency? There is no. You have to get started right now. But if the transformation is that enduring and is there to be had, the most important thing is to get it right. And part of getting it right is to actually mobilize across the company, educate everyone, carry everybody along. And so we are investing massively. In addition to investing in technology, we are investing massively in bringing everybody up to thinking. And when I talk about it's not like we're training everybody in kind of the optimization algorithms for the thing. But we are a bank. Thousands of at a bank, the core function is risk. It is the business, right? Managing risk. We have thousands of professionals who manage risk. How do we educate them to be able to think about the risks around AI? So we're actually building out programs in that way. And so for each of these functions, that's how we're going around. How do you think about risk in the age of AI, right? And one of the risks is you don't want to just say no to everything, because that would be the safest in the near term and the riskiest in the long term, right? And because the biggest risk of all is walking away, right? And so, yeah, so it takes a fair bit of effort, and we're learning along the way. It's not like you also can't take a fully thought out, designed view of the world. There is a little bit of Claude Shannon and channel capacity here. I can tell you what the channel capacity is, but I can't give you an algorithm to reach there. And that you only learn through iteration and practice, and that's kind of what we're doing. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Kaushal Misra, and I have my own AI company and do agentic AI stuff and so on. And also like to educate, because I feel in the boardrooms, the influencers actually are not so well educated about AI, right? And they, a lot of times, control the dollars actually for investment. So one of the questions that is, particularly since you are in one of the technologically advanced companies in general, and of course the most advanced bank, right? And I've had some banking experience. There are two places that people do not recommend use full autonomy of AI, right? One is of course, when you are making the financial decisions, okay, where the real money is involved. Another is that human life is at risk, right? So how do you see that autonomy growing, and how much autonomy can AI take in coming future? And how do you see it play out actually with the agentic AI and so on, with the advancements that we have?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We actually are not putting anything that is fully autonomous into place to start with. What we're doing is putting systems that are capable of that, but our entire approach is to slope up to human in the loop. There are very simple things where we've been able to reduce the human in the loop to very small amounts, right? Where humans have to supervise and approve every action, to where they're basically just doing monitoring and quality checking in certain cases. But the only way we know how to do this, or at least we think we know how to do this, is to allow these things to bake in the real world for a very long time, right? If you take self-driving cars, for example, right? You talked, the second one is life and death, but self-driving cars are out there, right? And I would say that there's a fair bit of risk in there, okay? But the way that's happened is it's taken 10 years. There's a lot of data collection happening. There's a lot of humans driving the car, and that's instrumented back, and that signal is brought back, and they're learning from it. I don't think this is any different. I think you have to put systems out there that are capable of being automated, but then you have to slope your way into that automation with tremendous strategic patience, because your tolerance for errors is as close to zero as it can be in some of these regulated industries, which is why I'm very glad to be in the place where I'm in, because my CEO has a lot of strategic patience. He understands the pathway we're going to, but also that it's not a switch that you throw. That you put this thing in place, and then you slowly but steadily, and then the inexorable, wheel of progress takes you where you need to go, as long as you're doing it right. But yeah, we have humans in the loop for everything we've deployed to monitor it. And I'll tell you, I was telling you there's an interesting story with the agent assist thing. That's a human in the loop entirely system. But even with that, when we saw that, we first deployed it with 10 people in the fall of 2023. In February 2024, we increased it up to like 50. In March, we took it to 200. And we have 20,000 plus agents. And everybody was asking, at this pace, when will we get to full deployment? I said, in due course of time. But what we did was, in March, we got feedback. And we said, wait a minute, this is not helping them as much as it should. Remember, I think AI is at its best, and the noble aim of AI is to transfer cognitive burden from the human to the system when the human needs that transfer most. If it's not doing that, you should stop it immediately. If the AI is adding to the cognitive burden of the human, it's not serving its purpose. So we said, wait a minute, so we paused it for 2 months. We took all that feedback, built it, and then from May through December, we were able to rapidly scale it up to 20,000 people. So I think it does take that instinct and the courage to say, wait, I'm going to pause this. Yeah, people will say, you guys failed. We'll have to figure that one out separately. But our focus is to improve the lives of the people we're trying to serve. And there it does take an informed enterprise, an informed leadership team. And so I'm not saying I could have done this everywhere. I certainly feel that I'm able to do it where I am. Thanks.
And as Raghu introduces the next panel, if you want to take some time to just shake up some.
So the next item in the program is we have a tech panel, AI tech panel with 3 panelists, USC professors, and moderator is one of our own professors, Shrikant Narayanan, who is I'll take a minute to introduce him. He's the Nicky and Max Nikias Chair Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering. He's also Vice President for Presidential Initiatives, and he's a world expert in speech processing. He does everything about speech, and then from just hearing how you speak and so on, he wants to figure out your emotional status. Shri, I will let you talk about your own research a little bit more and introduce the panelists, please.
Thank you, Raghu. Thank you, Parag, for doing this evening today. What a great way to celebrate the sort of the promise and possibilities of AI, India, and our new Consul General here, but also USC. So, in fact, as most of you know, today is a celebratory day for India. It's a festival across India. So it's Makara Sankranti and Pongal, where I come from. So happy Sankranti to everyone. So it's wonderful to be here to celebrate all that stuff. So this panel is going to have 3 eminent, amazing colleagues who are going to be talking and discussing about some of the questions of that's been of interest to all of us. So this is how the run of the show is going to be. I'm going to introduce them. Please come sit. I'll introduce you. Yeah, and then I'll introduce them, and then we will offer the platform to each of them to position, whatever they want to set up. And then I'll moderate a discussion or a question answer. And finally, we will have a chance to interact with some of you. Before that, right, as Raghu pointed out, so I'm Sri Narayanan. I'm a faculty member at USC at the Viterbi School, in the School of Advanced Computing, and a couple of other schools as well. My work is at the interface between people and technology, broadly speaking. And one of the areas someone is asking, Animesh was asking me, hey, what is exciting me most, right? The possibilities of these technologies in health, especially mental health, which I've been working on for a couple decades across lifespan, across health span. So I want to also take a moment to sort of underscore and boost what Dean Yorchos and Gaurav were pointing out about our USC's, not only USC Viterbi School and Advanced Computing, but USC's priorities and at the university level. One is this whole large view of computing. That's something that cuts across all of our institution, both inside and how we connect to others, right? So it means how we imagine computing and engineering informing not only sort of obvious domains of technology, so media entertainment and scientific discovery, but also social sciences and new domains we haven't imagined. And so one of the things, right, in fact, it intersects with the number of sutras that are pointed out there. The first one, I think, is about trust and safety in AI that our Consul General also pointed out. So in fact, we launched the Institute for Ethics and Trust in AI Computing as a cross-university thing, jointly led by a computer scientist, a colleague of ours, and a philosopher, and people drawn from across the university. So this is the kind of thing that USC, the university, prioritizes. The second priority is India. You kind of saw some fun pictures that our dean showed from our most recent visit to India. Our VP for Global Initiatives is here, Anthony Bailey. This is something that's not just happened yesterday. In fact, Yanis has been engaged with India for over 20 years himself, and many of us, at the individual level or at the university level, have been very engaged. Like, Raghu has been leading some of these charge for a long time. It's not only sort of, at the education level, human capital, but also in partnerships, right? We have, a formal partnership with Indian Institute of Science, for example, that we signed. This time we had a relationship that we was signed MOU with Reliance Foundation Hospital to really together see how we can get to doing AI and technology responsibly at scale. Those are two words that I sort of took away from the early keynote of our Consul General here in LA. And this is the kind of example how we want to do it together in partnership. So these are just two examples. And I also want to give a third thing, my own personal connection. So I've been a Vajra faculty at IIT Madras, have Spark projects with IISc, IIT Madras, even now an active one on neurological disorders, in fact. But that's only at the individual level, but there are big projects that USC has been leading. One example is in the study of aging. USC has been doing this for 15 years, leading a consortium of institutions, both here and in India, 22 institutions. I was actually blown away when I was drawn into this project that someone from here could actually bring together medical institutions from across India, from AIIMS in Delhi to JIPMER in Pondicherry. So the third renewal, it's funded by NIH, National Institute of Aging. It's a tremendously impactful study that's happening. And there are other such projects that are going on with that true collaboration. So this is a kind of example which really sort of underscores the way USC has been doing things like across disciplines, truly entrepreneurial and truly in a partnership-oriented ways. So every time I come back from India, last year I was there 3 times, the energy is so exciting. And the possibilities to sort of, address problems like whether it is in human health and well-being, manufacturing, new ways of thinking about education and learning is just tremendous. So this hopefully that these are just examples of that. Very exciting. The AI Summit just also sounds very exciting. So thank you for organizing this. Now, to the panel. So as I mentioned, we have 3 really amazing colleagues who represent, 3 different sort of facets of AI, but they have, come with not only academic, but industry and educational experiences, in this domain for a long time. So I'm going to start introducing from that side on. So Professor Swabha Swayamdeepta is an assistant professor of computer science, and in fact also leads a director of one of our centers, Center for AI and Society, a long-running one before even AI sort of become this popular with this transform model that Prem was talking about. And she brings a vast sort of award-winning research experience and its outreach, working with industry foundations like Allen Institute is like a place that Swabha was there before. We also collaborate a little bit. And one of her expertise areas is like was Prem talking about, in language, natural language processing. She's an expert there, and she has, thinks about it from many of these dimensions, these sutras, right? Like, how do you scale this up? How do you do it responsibly? What are the societal implications? And one thing on the human capital I want to underscore that the center that she is a co-director of has this student-driven effort, which is brilliant. The projects that they do and organize and under their mentorship of people like Swabha and Bishra, it's exciting. So annually they have a show, and if you it's coming up, so I do a plug for that. So Swabha, welcome, and thank you for joining. Next, I will go to my colleague Salman Afeshdemir from Electrical and Computer Engineering. He's the Dean's Professor, Electrical and Computer Engineering. So one thing I wanted to sort of here take a little digression. Prem always gives amazing talk. He's a great scientist and technical leader. I've collaborated with him for almost 3 decades now, I'd say. But he's leader in industry and academia. Both ISI, Amazon, Capital One. But the thing that actually for me is the most telling is Prem always sees how we can make it inclusive and the outreach of his vision, right? And you saw NSF, all the various hubs, whether he has created across the country, and this is going to have enduring impact, right? It encourages a lot of our students, faculty, and so on. Thank you, Prem. It's a brilliant talk. Yeah. So Prem, on that connection, set up one of the first such industry academic partnership at USC on the area of trust and in AI and machine learning, the USC Amazon Center. And Salman was in fact the brains behind that, and the director, inaugural director, and continues to be the director of that center here. So Salman is, like, again, an award-winning researcher, information theorist, and is training, but has also got the entrepreneurial bug, has 2 startups, and works across the various fields. So he will add some interesting perspective here to this panel. Thank you, Salman. And finally, Professor Krishna Garikipati is a professor in aerospace and mechanical engineering at USC. He came to us more recently, but his record in this area of computing, at the intersection of computing and science, is like long-standing. He came to us from Michigan, to a warmer place. We are delighted that you chose to come to USC, Krishna. There, in fact, he is, again, another award-winning researcher. In fact, recently won, that medal, which I saw. What's the name of that medal? From that Institute for Computational Science, medal in Computational Science, appropriately named. Most recently, won a lot of various awards. But his thinking, and he's a mathematician also in disguise, like an engineer, a mathematician, thinks about how AI impacts science and scientific discovery, and that's something that we really care about. At Michigan, he led the Computational Discovery and Engineering Institute, and now he's really trying to help us think through the impact of science and AI together, what the future is. In fact, he was one of the authors of the recent National Academy reports on this topic. So thank you for doing that. So with that background, so I'm going to give the platform to each of them for 5 minutes to sort of share their perspectives and thoughts on this topic of AI. As we see potentially what they see with an impact on a global level, with India and so on, whatever they want to say. So, Soba, you want to start?
No, you can start, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Krishna, start.
Okay. All right. I think this thing's on. Thank you very much, Sri. Also, thank you, Raghu and Parag and everybody, and the Consul General as well. I'll say a little bit about science, and I'll start with what are obvious success stories of AI in science. And when we talk about that, I think one really has to start with something like AlphaFold, right? It was the reason that the Nobel was awarded just last year. It has essentially transformed the field of biochemistry. And what this means is that it's not just talking about molecules, but then we know that molecules and biochemistry essentially define our approaches to solving diseases, right? So it's already making a huge impact. That field has been transformed forever. And every PhD student, and my daughter is one of them, starts their morning with AlphaFold, right? And this was not the case 3 years ago. It's central to the field. Another thing that's happened is that AI is being used now to tackle long-standing open challenges in mathematics. And we're talking of things that have stood around for 200, 300 years. There are big prizes around these mathematical problems. Think Fermat's last theorem, right? Its successors, the still open problems, are being attacked by AI, and progress is being made. And this is remarkable. Theorem proving is happening through AI. Now, there are other things too. There is materials are being discovered, and this is important because for a long time people thought that if they just went down to quantum mechanics, they would learn all about all kinds of new materials possible. Sure, they came up with new molecules, but these molecules were not stable. They could not be fabricated. They'd go through billions of them, and not one of them would succeed. With AI, especially with ideas like reasoning, chain of thought, inference, and so on, we're also able to bring to bear questions of, well, is this material actually going to be stable in the world around it? Right? So these are tremendous successes. And then, of course, there are things like scientific workflows, the way in which we do science, bringing together, in my case, mathematical derivations, building mathematical models, computing with them, and even interpreting them has also been taken. AI is making a tremendous impact there. So these are some successes. In terms of uses, I myself use AI on almost a daily basis when I'm trying to develop theories. There are aspects of mathematics that I may not have worked upon deeply, and I want to quickly check if what I'm doing is right. This is like an agent, right? A very, very capable postdoc or a very capable colleague. So I use this all the time. Same thing when it comes to building platforms, right? We develop models, we go ahead and make them we develop computational models, compute with them, and then try to infer, right? So this is also being taken over by agentic workflows and so on. Teaching. Pretty much every advanced engineering science course can now be either enhanced or even be run almost entirely by these language models that have been trained upon this particular science. This is a tremendous opportunity, but it's also a threat because it raises questions about how do we actually train our students, what do we teach them to do when these language models can do a great deal of what we're trying to teach them in class, right? How do we teach them to actually use these models, not just in some kind of slavish way in which they just give you the answer and not think about it, but actually use it to improve their thinking, right? So these are all the kinds of uses that we see. In terms of threats, I think something that's come up several times during even the talks that have gone on today is security and trustworthiness. On the standpoint of science, especially on the standpoint from the standpoint of mathematical science, we actually have very rigorous ideas of what trustworthiness has meant so far to our models. There's an entire mathematical field of uncertainty quantification, which gives us very rigorous mathematical bounds on the uncertainty that exists in models and so forth. And now with foundation models, we're really confronted with the task of saying, well, how do we extend this, right? When a language model gives you a response, you can ask it for a confidence interval, but even more, when we use it to solve scientific problems, how do we take this forward, right? So these are really open questions there. In terms of opportunities, I think all of these offer us opportunities. Prem talked about how language models use sequences. The sequences don't need to be text only. I think you talked about the temporal sequence in which a customer may actually carry out financial transactions and so on. But the same thing actually happens with our computational models of physics, right? There is a temporal aspect to it. We look at how flow evolves over an aircraft wing. There's also a spatial aspect to it, right? What do vortices shed by the wing have to do with what's happening near the tail? How does this how does this govern the whole, the way the aircraft flies, right? We can actually solve all of these with foundation models using this idea of sequences in there. But there's also the possibility of using reasoning and inference to also say, why am I not getting enough lift on this aircraft configuration and connect that with how vortices are being shed by the wing and so on, right? So these are tremendous opportunities in front of us, which otherwise the human analyst would have had to do. Sometimes the complexity beats us, but now we have the opportunity to actually use these AI frameworks to do this. And then I will come back to scientific workflows, right? The entire scientific workflow of building models, doing computations, interacting with experiment, right? Proposing the next new experiment, getting results from it, enhancing models. These are all tremendous opportunities that lie before us. And there's, I think the excitement is infectious. We keep saying we're at the cusp. I think we're about to fall over it, and hopefully we'll fall over it. But rather than fall to the ground, but hopefully we'll soar up with it when we step off that cliff. So,
thank you, Krishna. So, Salman, you want to?
Yeah, I think everything was mentioned. There is not much left, to discuss. But maybe I add on other aspects of it. Maybe when Gen AI happened, right? It was, I think, many of the students in our group were thinking, okay, what research should we do? Right? The whole thing changed, and that was the time that we decided, maybe. Every lab you put a philosophy on how you want to do research, what is it that you can push for. And at that time, I think, at least from my view, there were certain areas that academic research could play a role. Right. One of them is maybe similar to what Prem mentioned. I think where you own the data is where you can own the field. And there are certain areas, for example, in circuit design, like analog circuit, is definitely being led in academia. Nanofabrication is being led in academia. So those are great areas where we own the data that even the companies won't have. For example, we have started working on building, I think this is the best open source library for AI-based analog circuit design. So that's an area there is shortage of students going there. Like imagine how many of your kids would be interested in circuit design. Unfortunately, not that many. I mean, it's going on the decline, but I think we need to have a human force, to push for what is going to be the next chip design that we are going to have. So there is definitely shortage of talent. There is definitely role for academia to build the best models, maybe similar to AlphaFold. But AlphaFold, I would say the data was industry type. That's why it wasn't in the academia. I also see it in nanofabrication. Like these are foundational research and science where we have lots of data. We can be at the forefront of building the best AI model for it. So that's one area that we work on. I feel there is a lot of room for innovation, leadership, in academia. The second one is, I think was mentioned a couple of times, is about uncertainty estimation or trustworthiness, right? The way, we started thinking about how you can formulate trustworthiness, I think is very broad topic, but one way you can formalize it is if you can assess how much you don't know, right, you are gonna be a trustworthy person, right? So for example, when you talk to an expert, a good expert is the one that quickly would say, yeah, this is the one that I know, this is the one that I don't know, and if I don't know it, ask the other person. This becomes a very important problem when you are designing agentic systems. Which agent should solve which problem? When would you reach out, bring human in the loop? How would the agents collaborate together? And it's kind of a foundational, if you think about, again, as a human being, the fact that there are certain things that we don't know and we seek truth is very important. And I feel that notion is missing in the AI models. Right? You talk ChatGPT, I mean, it answers everything to you. Right? So it's kind of, you want to say, yeah, this is, sorry, I cannot do it at all. And maybe bringing that understanding to it. So for that part, we have, again, the best state-of-the-art metric for assessing uncertainty of the models. This would be based on, and as you mentioned, I mean, there is a whole literature on uncertainty estimation. What makes generative AI different is that these are open-ended, and you cannot reduce it to hypothesis testing, because it's not binary, right or wrong. If you can reduce the problem to hypothesis testing, then huge literature on it. Now that you cannot do it, or you can say, yes, it's hypothesis testing, but infinite hypothesis, then you cannot solve it. So that's the second area, and I feel can lead to a lot of room for answering some foundational questions. For example, let's say we have GPT-5, GPT-6, GPT-7. Would they saturate? What set of problems can this technology solve? Maybe you let it run, and after 20 years, everything would be solved, or maybe not. There are certain things, right, that they will hit a limit, and they cannot solve beyond that. I think these are important problems. Again, in academia, we can think about them and think about maybe if this technology is not going to answer them, what is going to be the other technology to answer it? And maybe I wrap up. I mentioned the third area, which is about related to collaboration. I also call it a scaling out. Right? Typically, again, academia is great in a scaling out solutions. Right? A scaling up is what industry will do. They build the biggest model. They build the biggest cloud, massive data centers. But in academia, I mean, we don't have the money to do that. Instead, what we can do is a scaling out. A very good example of it is internet. Right? Internet is a technology, quite a scaling, but is building a communication system by scaling out the solution. In the same manner, we are thinking about, for example, how could you combine many small models to achieve performance of large models? How would you combine many agents that can collaborate together to solve complex problems? How could you combine agents with certain unreliability but build a more reliable system with them? Right? So these problems become very interesting, and that's what we do in our research lab.
So Svabha, your turn.
Yeah, so I think most of the topics were covered by Krishna and Salman. I can talk a little bit about the things that were not mentioned, which also seem to be very important. So my research is like fundamental natural language processing research. So we were building language models before they got super popular. And so ever since ChatGPT came out, there has been so much public interest, and it's kind of industry has taken over this research. And like the most, the high powerful language models are being proposed by industry. So it is very important for us academics to be very creative in our research. So some problems that we focus on, which I don't think industry has that much of an interest in, is understanding how language models work, what makes the language model do the way it does. There are certain problems these models get right all the time because there is some kind of memorization component to it, but there are certain problems the model tends to change its answer to often. So understanding why that behavior happens, why certain, why is language that is generated by these models a certain way? Why does it act in a very sycophantic manner sometimes? A student of mine, Harsha, who's in the audience, he's studying a very cool problem about the naturalness of these language model outputs, like how can we improve the outputs to make them more natural. So understanding what goes behind the scenes in these language models is something industry doesn't focus on, which is something I'm interested in. The second problem is about how do you ensure that these language models are as safe as they are capable. So you can argue, and I believe Prem was talking about this, like from the point of view of industry, there is a very high necessity for these language models to be safe, but they might be very, very specific in the particular applications that you focus on, or there might be, in case of like foundational language model research, there might be a lot of maybe lip service to building secure and safe language models, even though that might not really be the case. And in some cases, like for instance, XAI, with everything that's happening with Grok, there might not be any emphasis on safety at all. So in academia, we can work on these safety problems as like a first-class citizen problem that we focus on. That is something I try to do with my lab. We work on these algorithms that ensure that we are building safe models while not compromising on the model's capabilities. And the last and perhaps the most important facet of what's happening with AI is how it is impacting society. That's a very broad term, but like Prem mentioned, like the reason we all got AI built is when ChatGPT was introduced, because it used language, and language is the way we communicate with each other, and we are able to communicate with AI using language. Now these language models or AI models are affecting how we operate as a society. It's kind of changing the fabric of society. We see this in the classroom. A lot of problems that we had to do manually, now we can very easily do using AI. So what does that mean for education? What are we learning in a classroom setting? Mental health. On the one hand, it is very exciting that now everyone has a therapist on their phone. But on the other hand, is that always a good idea? It kind of opens up very interesting questions. And it's actually like everything in our society is going to be very different with this introduction of AI and proliferation of AI. So some of the problems we try to study is how humans are interacting with AI, and what does that tell us about the language model, and what does that tell us about ourselves as a society. Yeah.
Thank you, Sobha. So we kind of heard sort of AI at the intersection of math and science, entrepreneurial aspects and innovation, and then language and society, sort of these kinds of themes that they represented. So this is going to be a lightning round, right? Because Garo started out with a brag sheet, and Prem mentioned brag stuff. So I'm going to give you a lightning opportunity. Top of mind, one thing at the AI front that you want to brag about that you're doing right now.
Trying to understand how cancer cells behave. Why do certain cancer cells recapitulate the ability to move? During early development, all our cells move. That's why an embryo grows up for me to have cells in my feet as well as hair and all of that, right? So cells can move. Cancer becomes deadly when the cells remember how to move. They also signal to each other in very complex ways. So we're using, going from data through mathematical models through reinforcement learning to try and understand, can we understand cancer from the standpoint of policies for cells? What rewards are they trying to get at? And
awesome. Swabha.
So in my lab, we recently worked on this problem where we used language models to discover an opportunity for a novel intervention for suicide prevention. We use language models to figure out what information is there in about a suicide based on information that law enforcement might have collected, which tells us the kind of people this victim was interacting with in the days before their death. And we found out that 10% of suicide victims in the US have been interacting with some kind of a legal professional. And so that opens up a novel opportunity for people who work in suicide prevention to build these kinds of training programs for lawyers so they can spot suicidal behavior in their clients, which is something that was impossible before language models became so easily available. And I'm very proud of that.
That's very powerful. Thank you, Swabha, and congrats on that. Someone.
I think I mentioned two of them before on the AI for circuit design.
Let's boost it.
Yes, so that you can check. I think it's gaining actually good attention, especially from analog circuit community on how you can do that. The other one is uncertainty estimation. We have an open source library that you can use to assess uncertainty of any model. Right? So for example, you want to use open source, closed source, how good they are for your certain task. And these are the two ones that I mentioned. Maybe I mentioned something from the startup, the company that we are at. We have something called Agent Opera, which is about agentic collaboration. And that, for example, you can compare where you need collaboration for executing certain tasks. A simple example of it is, let's say, a slide generation. Right? A slide generation, you need content preparation, image generation, putting it together, all of that. You can ask ChatGPT to do it. The result is terrible. You can go to Agent Opera. I think you will like it. So I think that's
nice.
Where we go after.
Very good, very good. Well, that's great. Dean Yortos and even Prem forgot to brag about one thing, another USC connection, right? They mentioned transformer and the transformer that transformed AI in this current version has a USC connection. Two of our graduates, Asish Vaswani and Nikki Parmar, were at Google, and they were instrumental. They were part of ISA as well. So we're very proud of that as well. So I want to get to a serious topic, in a sense that, while these exciting changes are happening, there's lots of power differential. That's who's developing the technology, where's the who has access to. There was mention about data, which is like one of the drivers, but also it's not just the data; it's the talent, people, resources, compute resources, and so on. While computing and the way the shared approach has democratized work across the world, right? That's people who could participate. It's still not as accessible across all parts of the world. I'm thinking about India, like 1.5 billion people, even within India, right? That's great. So, in your view, right, when we are using this, developing and using this technology, how well can we actually make sure the participation in whatever that's relevant to them, right? Not everyone needs to work on cancer or manufacturing. What's your view on how one should go about it, and collaboratively otherwise? I'd love to hear each of your thoughts. Who wants to start?
I can start.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think maybe something good that happened along this line. I think last year, I think every nation, every enterprise, they had this mindset that to compete, we have to build our own foundation model. Right, so you could see it like many enterprises starting building their foundation model. And even, you mentioned Llama was mentioned by Meta, but I think they're going to abandon it or maybe just keep the minimum of that. Right, the same thing. France has started to building a foundation model, every country. The good news is that this year the conclusion was actually is getting commoditized in a sense that not every country needs to build GPUs. It's okay. You can still survive and do great things without building the best chip. Maybe one company or two will build the best chip, and that's it. So I think in that sense, it's great news, because the truth of the matter is not every country or company can build the best foundation model. Right? Requires a lot of resources, requires a lot of maybe investment in the long run, which you don't need it. So now, and maybe the reason for that was the benchmarks that Prem showed. I mean, they are saturating. You can create new benchmarks, but I feel this way of building foundation model, right? How much, you can add more data. Maybe Google has a lot of, like the other 90% Google owns that data, right? They can build better foundation model, that's okay. Let them do that. And then we can think about, with these commoditized technology, what is it that we can build? So in that sense, I think that's a very good news for the world, for everybody, academia, industry, so on and so forth. And with that, I think now the innovation is going to one layer above, right? Above the model layer, like it used to be the platform, like we don't build cloud. Why would we need the cloud? We don't need to build model. Now we build above that, which is application and agents. Right? That's where I think now it's a level field, right? Everybody can build an agent, right? In fact, there are places you can go in one afternoon, build an agent, and bring that innovation, to the world. So now, if we are focusing on that, I think there is exciting opportunities. First of all, it's becoming much more commoditized. Everybody can participate. Becomes much more collaborative, because these agents, right? They solve various pieces of the puzzles. Right? How could they collaborate together for solving bigger set of problems? And then maybe all the things that we discussed also today about the trustworthiness, about frameworks for assessing how well they are doing, etc. Now we can answer them at that layer and improve upon it. Right? So I think that's the way I view it as the opportunity.
Can I put a little twist on the same question? It's like, because we have these power centers, AI power centers are fairly sort of, clustered, right? Yeah. We saw the rank list, 10 people, 15 people who have. So is bigger the better? Can we think contrary in ways in our academia, not to imitate or to do, and we can partner well, that can we be clever or smarter in how we approach that? Because it has implications for a lot of things, right? How much energy and all that cost, everything.
Absolutely.
So love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah,
Krishna,
sure.
you want to
So
say?
actually, we've done some work. We have work ongoing, and see my postdoc Ben out there, who's played a central role in this, where we asked this question about, can we take language models and fine-tune them to be aligned with either classwork, right, a particular course, right? So GPT-5, if you ask it, you take your favorite advanced engineering science topic and ask it, to explain some concepts, it'll do it. Chances are at much too sophisticated a level for even an entry-level graduate class. But the way you teach your class has a particular alignment to the way you think about it. And it turns out that actually the much lighter weight models, you mentioned Llama, we're even using some of the really small, like 11 billion parameter Llama models, we're actually able to beat GPT-5 in alignment with the way in which Sri teaches his class, right? The same thing with research. When you have research groups, either here, again, now in India too, right, where there are certain approaches to particular subtopics in science which a particular lab carries out, and you want to bring a language model to continue that thought, almost like having a new group member, right? But you want to have it aligned with your approach to the problem. You can actually beat some of the biggest commercial models with working off the much smaller models. And of course, there are savings in power and resources and all of that.
It's a great example. So on the top, since language was brought up, because language research has been driving much of the recent revolution, right? Because access to data and all the structure behind cognition and human centeredness of it. But this is also influencing other fields, and I'd love to hear Swaba's view on how all the work that's been happening in the LLM part of it is influencing other aspects of AI research currently, across fields,
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about the India access part. So
very good. Go for
one thing that I was completely blown away by is that these foundational models, even though they are not trained to be multilingual, they tend to be multilingual very easily. My husband works for Anthropic, so they build Claude, and based on what I hear from him, there is nothing specifically multilingual that they do for Claude, but he shared a Claude Pro account with my dad as a holiday gift, and my dad is obsessed with it. He will call me, and before asking me how I am, he'll be like, "Oh, I love Claude." But he is trying to do. So he's a poet, and we speak Odia at home, and apparently Claude is very good at Odia, which is something that I wouldn't have guessed that it was good at. So on the one hand, access has improved, but on the other hand, there is a lot of access in the hands of people that may not use it the best way. So again, speaking of India, I'm sure everyone here who is from India is on a lot of WhatsApp groups where you see a lot of AI-generated content, some of it fun, some of it not great, being circulated every day. And so that's an artifact of language being used as a medium to do image generation. And it could be used or misused for misinformation, disinformation, propagation. You see deep fakes being generated, which look like real, videos of real events that are happening, which are completely fabricated. So on the one hand, this access is amazing, but this is such a dual use of AI that you can use these technologies for doing or perpetrating a lot of harm as well. So the image generation is something that really worries me, because image generation, video generation, those are improving as we speak, and that has the opportunity to wreak a lot of harm in the society.
Thank you for that. I'm just going to shift gear, and I'm just try to wrap up. One is as educators, all of us are here, have been in this business. There's a lot of exciting possibilities of how to leverage these kinds of tools and approaches, Krishna was pointing out. At the same time, there's angst about how do we rethink education, pedagogy, and everything, especially at a global scale to improve quality, right? Education is not just providing technology and tools. People have tried that ever since, videotapes, you can become, expert in whatever history. It hasn't worked out. There's something about apprenticeship, something about inquiry, and so on. So how do you think, we should, each of your personal view at this point, you view education, and especially, it can impact globally, right? This can be replicated. Yeah. So. Who wants to start?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I can start. Maybe I first give a hands-on answer and then more of a philosophical answer to that. Sure. I think that's a very important question, because many people you talk to, they say, okay, professors are the first to lose the job, because in terms of the teaching, the research is a little bit different, but teaching, if you think about it, what is it that we do that is special that AI cannot do, right? So you can ask the question to ChatGPT. It gives you actually many answers, and you can keep asking questions while the professor is going to be impatient and say, go, you are on your own. So with that, I think from the classroom perspective, right, something that we saw in the past is a lot of our courses became coding oriented, so people would be builders, not just learning the theory. That was a bit difficult in the sense that people come with different backgrounds and they don't know enough coding. And especially if they take, let's say, more of a theory of machine learning course, right? Then they couldn't really deliver. Now with AI, it's much easier. So in that sense, they can go do the journey much faster from idea to something that they can try and see the impact of it. So I think in that sense, I feel education could be, going from idea to test much faster. And that was the counter-argument that maybe some people like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk would use to say, don't go to college, right? Just come, because you want to get from idea quicker to execution. But now with AI, you can do in one day. So I think that's a very good news for classroom. Then more of a philosophical is, maybe people come to college just to mature, right? So you go there, be with your peers, or maybe the fact that you are sitting in a classroom with, let's say, if you could take, at the time, take, let's say, physics with Feynman. That experience by itself could change your life, right? So in that sense, there is no replacement for that. And that's where I think we are the hub for bringing talent, right? And as far as we continue bringing great talent, both from, faculty, from students, then that's the place to be. Where else do you want to be? You want to be in the room with the most, smartest people in the room, and that's all. So I think in that regard, maybe AI could help us, right? We be more at the forefront of using it, become much more advanced researchers, right? And if we do that, we bring much more talent, and that solves the problem.
Very good. So, Baba, you want to add?
Yeah, so I think we're in a very awkward stage right now where we're still figuring out how best to incorporate AI in education. On the one hand, like someone said, right, like AI can do a lot of these very high level education problems very easily. Some students, so I recently taught an undergraduate language model class, and some students just use AI to do everything. Then what they realize is that they actually have to backtrack a little bit because they feel like they have learned something, but actually they haven't. So they kind of like try to break it down then, and like the ones that really are interested in learning, I should say. There are some students who are like, oh, assignment done, and let's move on to the next topic. But the ones that I felt like learned the most, they broke the problem down into components that they left for AI to do, which is completely fair given like, a coding is something that AI can do very well. So perhaps we have to really rethink like what part of the coding, maybe debugging is something that we have to teach students how to do. But there are certain design questions that we have to still do because the designs that come from AI are not necessarily the best designs. So breaking down the problem into parts that AI can do and cannot do is something that we need to teach students better. I personally don't know how to do that very well now. I'm still trying to figure it out, but we are in a very awkward stage right now. It also complicates matters that like a lot of the students are, digital natives. So, attention spans are also something that need to be, like, we need to worry about. Like, I'm a millennial. My attention span is pretty bad. I see a lot of you on screen, so I'm sure I'm not alone. But in this very complicated world with AI and with, reduced attention spans, how do we educate people? It's a very hard problem and something we are still figuring out, I believe.
Thank you, Shobha. Anything to add?
So, yeah, last semester I taught a class which is basically physics, right? So a lot of mathematical derivations. Turns out it's a very classical topic. So every solution, every problem I can think about has been solved. It's out there. All these AIs know it. We did something very simple saying, that's fine, I know you're going to use it, that's all right, but I want you to handwrite all your solutions, right? And so these are 20, 30-page long solutions. So it gets, maybe something goes into there. All right. But no, but then to get back to what Swabha and Salman said, I think when it comes to more sort of coding-oriented classes, right, we really have to sort out how do we get them to use it, but also use it to enhance their understanding, right? To really probe the deep questions, using the fact that, well, I can write a code to do this in a Flash, all right? I can get it to write a code to do it in a Flash, but use it to really go back and ask the fundamental questions. I think that we really have to work upon. Yeah. It's not clear yet how we set that up, but we do need to do it.
Very good. For me, even before the solution, I feel like, how do you ask the right question and formulate the, identify a problem is far more important than how you solve it. There will be a lot of different solutions that we can come up with, methodologies. And that thinking, how do you, teach people to identify? Because there's always going to be interesting problems around and solving. So anyway, this is the last set of questions. Lightning round, only 10 seconds. So if we imagine a place like India with its vast culture, history, 1.5 billion people, and if you were given an idea with your AI, what problem would you like to work on and collaborate with India?
Oh boy. I think something that draws us upon what is still the strength of education in India, which is fundamental training, in my case, in mathematics and science, right? So set up problems that we could really tackle these kinds of things together.
Thank you. How about you, Swabha?
I think educating people about AI is something I would use AI for, where we don't necessarily just use AI, but learn when to use AI and when not to, when to trust AI and when not to. That would be an interesting problem to work on.
Absolutely. I think across the spectrum, in fact, we need it everywhere. I think including it. That's a good one. How about you, Salman? What do you think?
Yeah, for me, it's actually aligned with the second startup we have, which is about human-built AI.
He's an entrepreneur.
Right, so there is like a very large population, and the idea is that everybody should co-own that AI. Yeah. How could you participate? Just giving annotation to the AI model, giving data, giving feedback, very much aligned with the alignment of human with the AI. Ownership, that maybe this technology, we should have a say in how this is built, not XAI deciding how it should go. And I think this is more of a longer term, like as a humanity, we want to have a say in that. And I feel, again, India, right? And in fact, we have a lot of users from China, India. These are the places with large population. A lot of people are eager to participate, right? And, that's a great scenario.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for all your kind things. So as you say, let's give a big hand. I think that the promise of society-centered, human-centered way of thinking about AI is very reflected here from these educators. So I think that's going to be infectious, right? And I think the future is bright. I feel that way. So yeah. Well, yeah, of course, others can interact with our panelists. Thank you again, Krishna, Salman, and Swabha. I think, our organizers gave me some signs like, they'll start playing music, particularly given an Oscar awardee. But we will do it during the reception if you don't mind. Thank you again, everyone, for your attention. Thanks.
Make sure that we thank you properly.
Wow. This to you.
Let's start with the next panel.
Just invite me in.
So next is a panel on US-India collaboration, and it's going to be introduced by Priyank, who is the Southern California IIT president.
Thank you, Parag. I really wanted to come to this stage, and thanks for the opportunity, Parag. I am really blessed to be part of two families, USC family and my IIT family. These two families have great culture. And the way I say it, because Parag, for example, I saw him first in the media as a winner of Oscar awards. And then a few months later, I was with him in the meetings, and I'm like, wow, so humble, and I can just approach him. So that's the power of culture. And I don't think AI can trump cultures, right? So let me do this. I really wanted to do this. So how many USC here? Okay, fight on. And how many IITians here? IIT ka tempo. There you go. Thank you. So we had some very insightful presentations. The keynote speech, amazing. And thank you, Shri, and esteemed panelists for this technology insights. Now let's shift our gears here and talk about how AI can enhance the collaboration, or to be talking in this world, competition. Would these two largest economies in the world, or the countries in the world, US and India, could AI bring them closer, or will they pit them against each other? And that's the theme that is our esteemed panelists bringing next. We have IIT alumnus on the panel. We have a USC alumnus, my Marshall School professor, Nick Vyas here, and we have our diplomat from India. So I'm really looking forward to it. I would like to introduce our moderator for the panel, Gunjan Bagla. He is CEO of Emrit and a well-known expert on US-India partnerships. He is not stranger to USC, as he has been conducting many seminars here at the campus. So with this, no further ado, I would like to welcome Gunjan. Please, over to you.
Thank you, Priyank. Will my panel come up here? It's late, and we are going to do something different. We are going to wake everybody up. And so we are on a campus that's very competitive. Your motto is fight on. So who's the CEO of Google? Which IIT did he go to? Did he go to USC? Okay. The CEO of Microsoft, where was he born? Okay, India, right? Okay. There's an emergency sound just because of that, see? India is inside every development of AI, no matter where it happens, okay? And we are going to talk a little bit about that. Consul General, would you be okay standing? I know you had a knee issue. You can sit down. Okay, yeah. It's late, so we're going to stand up and talk, okay? So India is being transformed by science. 1 billion people are being transformed by science every day. Whereas here in the US, we are beginning to doubt science, okay? I'm going to be politically incorrect. I can say whatever I want, right? So I'm going to be controversial at this point, right?
Safe space. Safe space, yes.
It's a safe space, exactly. Despite
put me in trouble.
So you can be politically correct, but the rest of us won't. CG had issue with his knee.
Small knee surgery, yeah. So I'm just.
So he can sit, but the rest of us will stand. Okay, and you see the IIT logo. We are all engineers, but we put Hollywood on it because we can tell stories, not just Parag who made that transition to win an Academy Award, but all of us can. Okay, so I'm going to say a couple of things, and then I'll put my panel to talk about things that are much more interesting than I can. So we talked about the importance of language, right? In America, most people can only speak one language. Okay? In India, if you speak only one language, you are considered illiterate. Okay? There are 23 official languages in India, okay? And many, many more dialects. So when you're talking about the importance of language and you apply that to AI in India, it's going to be something far more complex and textured than is happening here in the US, where, as many people have said, all of the AI models have been developed. With the help of many Indians, I should say, okay? Let's not forget that, many IITians, okay? So we're going to make this very much real world. And to start the real world conversation, I'm going to talk to my dear friend Animesh. He is also a fellow IITian. He's the head of technology at a company which has a number of its people based just outside of Delhi. So can you tell us how you are using AI at your company and where you see the importance of India in the role of your company, which is headquartered here in Long Beach?
Thank you very much, Gunjan. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. So quick intro, I'm a recovering academic. I am a very proud Trojan. I used to be in academia working at INRIA in Paris before I moved back 10 years ago back to study in Southern California. Paris is good in the summer, but LA is good at all times, right? So moved back over here, joined MyKarma, which I helped start in the earliest days as an advisor by hiring students from IIT. From my own IIT, I went to IIT BHU in Varanasi. Most welcome to come by the next time you guys are in India visiting. I'll be happy to make a phone call to a director and set things up. So over time, we began to build a hiring pipeline from a couple schools in India. And currently, my company is called MyKarma. It's used by automotive dealerships. So if you go to Mercedes-Benz of LA, Pleasure Jones Newport Beach, a whole bunch of dealerships, including like 2,200 stores across the US, and service your vehicle, all the communications, the video being taken off your vehicle, being analyzed, your audio phone calls, your texts, online payments, all that stuff is done through our systems. However, the brains of the operations, our engineering team, is everybody but 4 people are in India. And these are people who have what we at IIT like to say, their fundas are clear. Their fundamental concepts are very, very clear. And that's vitally important. And what we've been able to do is build a team that sits over there, solves math and engineering problems in the service of a clientele who are vehicle owners and vehicle servicers in America. And that cultural divide, to bridge that, it's not easy. It is very, very difficult. And I would credit part of my improv background here at USC. I co-founded Vidushak, the Indian improv troupe at USC. I think they're still going on, I hope. We'll see. But that ability to mix theater into science was very, very important because as we build the team, I am so proud to say I have an intern who recently literally like Zoom bombed one of my Zoom meetings happening with the dealer principal, being like, hi, can I just hang out here and just watch? Because I want to know, I'm building the software, what does it do? Who does it really help? And that's the kind of human intelligence combined with all the AI stuff that we use. And in terms of AI stuff, Claude Opus is the latest model that we have been using. Using of AI tools to write code is essential. In fact, we were talking recently about how instead of writing, we are doing guiding of code. That's just basically how it is. And the team is like any other, I would say, in a global tech organization. We went, got a full bake-off between, do we do Augment, do we use Cursor? 2 different teams tried a whole bunch of things, ultimately went with Cursor. Now we're thinking of going with Claude Code. But the goal here is to continuously evolve. And it took some effort to convince the engineers to be like, yeah, that thing can code. They're like, oh my goodness, that thing can code.
So do you see a difference between your Long Beach-based tech team and the ones in Noida?
No.
Okay.
And it's not easy. It takes a lot of effort to find the right people and to coach them to keep the bar that high, because there is also the risk of people whose fundas may not be so clear, whether here or there.
Got it. Thank you. So I met Nick, I think, 15 years ago. He was, I used to speak at the Asia Pacific Business Outlook Conference every year about India. He was kind enough to invite me to speak once, and maybe one more time, and then I'm not good enough for his conference, so he hasn't called me again. I know Nick to be a brilliant guy, and I'd love for you to tell us the role of supply chain, which is his expertise, as it relates to India.
Well,
the longest supply chain possible, right? You're going to the other side of the world.
That's right. Can you guys hear me okay? So I was sitting here and I'm thinking about folks ahead of me solving the problems of cancer cells and some advanced implications of AI. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Fixing the truck issues and the port issues and global supply chain issues. So it looks like I'm in the wrong field. However, my world, as Gunjan mentioned, is all about global supply chains, global trades, global supply chains, and my core competency is on the network design, network optimizations. Background, I'm undergraduate, industrial systems and advanced math, focused on optimization, and I just did the lecture for now Professor Fault, just before this, talking about the sustainability, in which how the triple bottom line that we're now understanding in today's world, where the cost and the profit is no longer going to be sufficient for you to run your enterprise. But you're going to have to be much more sophisticated to be able to solve the agility, the resiliency, sustainability, as what we're learning that today's world and tomorrow's world will be very complex. This is the first time in the human history that we're seeing more than geopolitical, more than biological, or more than a natural disaster, the risk of policy disruption. The policy disruptions will probably lead decades to come. If this continues, the agility and resiliency will have to be redefined. And AI, in my view, will play an incredible role, which is something we're working at the Institute, trying to solve those problems in the back end.
Awesome. So about 3 years ago, the Minister of Commerce and Industry visited Los Angeles, and he was keen to meet Jean Soroka, the CEO of the Port of LA. So we are there with Piyush Goyal and Jean Soroka, and he says, Gunjan, there's only really one person you need to talk to if you want to understand supply chain issues, and that's Nick Vyas. So thank you, Nick, for being here.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
Now, there's some people here who may have been to India but not perhaps spend much time there. For those of you who are not from India, can you raise your hand if you don't know what UPI is? Don't be shy. Okay. Okay, good. So I think I'm going to ask the Consul General to give a little bit of an explanation of that, but I'll preface it with one statement. UPI enables probably 1.2 billion people in India to perform digital transactions. The volume, we all know MasterCard and Visa, right? India is processing more transactions than MasterCard and Visa put together. So could you give everybody a background of how that has happened?
Thank you. Great to be here back again. Instead of the monologue there, this is like a good chat. What you said, we want to wake up the people. Anyway.
I'll tell you something. I almost got killed the last time I came to this campus, and I'll tell you why. We were in Palm Springs. A friend of mine had invited me to attend a UCLA-USC game on campus, Thanksgiving, right? My wife and I were coming from Palm Springs. I was wearing an REI jacket. It was blue. Okay, that's the UCLA color. Okay, so I have to be careful what I say.
I think this will work.
Okay? Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So as he was mentioning, UPI, of course, is the unified payment interface that India devised about a few years ago, and today it has, not only made life convenient for the small and medium enterprises, but also made life easy for many of the people of India. As he mentioned, over 1 billion transactions take place every day, and there is no commission on each of the transactions. That's what makes it, that's the beauty of the system. And in a way, it has not only democratized the use of the online banking channels, but at the same time, it has also given a handle to the government to track who is earning how much. So basically, you go to a vegetable vendor and you buy a kilo of tomatoes, for example. It's like $50 per kilo, and you pay them the 50 cents. But after that, these are all informal transactions. Nobody pays tax on this. But we have been given to understand that the AI algorithms instituted by the Indian Revenue Service, almost like your IRS here, they have been tracking all these transactions, and it turns out that in India we eat what we call as a pan. Pan is like a after food stuff you have with a leaf, betel nut, and everything. So there are these vendors who earn more than, say, about $10,000 to $15,000 a day, and they never paid a single dime of tax. So now all of them are under the tax umbrella thanks to this UPI. So this is something, the use of AI, the use of technology, and there the government actually can say, buddy, you have to pay your taxes. So, but all said and done, the UPI actually has now, the use has been quietly spreading across the world. We have had agreements with countries like France, UAE, the Caribbean, what we call as the National Payments Corporation of India. So that combined with your tax ID number, we call it the PAN number in India, combined with your national ID card, the Aadhaar number, linked to your bank, which is all in one set of data. Again, the master algorithm of the AI truly helps even when you file your taxes, or while you have any discrepancies or you have any issues, you can actually work out with technology there.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I want to keep the conversation interactive, and we are so lucky that we have someone in the audience who works for a company that has almost 500,000 employees. And Kamal, may I hand the mic to you for a moment to talk a little? Well, this is interactive. It's a we are getting ready for dinner, so think of this as a pre-dinner conversation, right? So can you tell us a little bit about how TCS is using AI, both? And just to be clear, okay, you've heard a lot of news about TCS. I want to say something, okay? You may not say this, but I will, okay? TCS employs a lot of H-1B folks, but they are not the largest employer of H-1B folks. Apple and Microsoft and Google and Amazon employ far more. You won't see that in media, okay? Because American media is sometimes picking on folks from India. They employ a whole bunch of Americans, okay, and I know many of them. So, tangent, but I thought it'll keep the crowd awake, okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Gunjan.
Mike, hey,
good evening.
Mike,
sorry, I'll just stand this way. Look, our vision is to become world's largest AI tech services company. And we are well on our way. Obviously, we are endowed with a great talent pool that we exist with us. And the uniqueness that has in our business is we touch across every industry, across every part of the globe. So, and most of our work obviously is related to commercials of any business. So we are always looking at AI from a lens of what is commercially viable, what is commercially cost effective. So I really loved your presentation, Prem. And we are constantly evolving with that to say, okay, how can India, and obviously TCS from my point of view, really leapfrog to become really truly a global AI-led tech services company, because India has that base available to be that powerhouse what China is to manufacturing. And that's the vision we are constantly marching on, Gunjan. We're investing significantly across the globe. We are already 200,000 engineers working on AI. So it's a massive scale. Obviously, they're all across commercial engagements across our businesses and customers. But that's a massive scale that itself requires AI for AI. So we have engineers who are trained by AI. We are engineers, we are running hackathons which are evaluated by AI. So we configure hackathons with AI and then have AI evaluate the hackathons, the answers coming in from engineers, and then evaluate, and then finally have human on the loop. So I'm a firm believer that it's a human in the loop, human on the loop, human will never be out of the loop. So it's a very important transition we need to make, especially from India perspective, that any progression of AI which takes human out of the loop is eventually going to either have a social implications, which we have not yet reached that stage, or it could have a commercially declining ecosystem. That the businesses start to shrink because there are no employments and therefore there are no wages and so on. And therefore humans can never be out of the loop. We continue to believe that. So therefore, how do we train people, skill them so that they become if not human in the loop, human on the loop, and never out of the loop. So that's the progression we are on, Gunjan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kamal, for that. Are there questions from the audience for our panelists? Come on now, you have questions. You won't get to eat until you ask one.
There's one there.
Go ahead, Rohit.
Yep. Great discussion. I come from the land of adoption problems. Adoption in terms of technology has been tremendous. But in healthcare, in pediatrics, we're still dealing with pagers and fax machines.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we going to solve the problem of adoption?
I think the term about trust came up in Plain's talk, and that's going to be a deal. Fax machines, so since my research a little bit and then a lot of my technical work has been about interactions and communications and stuff, my wife comes to me regularly and it's like, why don't you guys go into healthcare? What's wrong with you? I can text my service advisor to get my vehicle repaired. I can get a video of my car. I have to get CDs of my MRI and I have to send faxes back and forth. I'm like, yeah, it's encryption, you know, like if you send an email, it's SMTP, like I'm not going to go into technical details, but that's what's happening. She's like, there has to be a way out of it. And I think the human-centered design is going to be the way to solve this particular piece. I'm happy to say that the way I see it happening is the snowball is becoming extremely big. Somebody will have to break it. When PayPal started, the legend goes that they basically budgeted X amount of fine money that they will pay to the system every year because they were not the big payment companies. They were breaking the rules, and they were like, okay. Because at some point, we will simply become so big that everybody else will have to change. Mm-hmm. I am strongly suspicious, seeing how quickly things are changing with AI, and this is where, Prem, I disagree with you. There is an urgency because the workforce is not ready. It's an exponential distribution. There's a few who are champs, but so many people are behind and they don't know that they are behind, or maybe they're afraid. But it's going to change really fast. So the first company that figures it out and raises enough money to pay the fines, when Epic finally figures out how to actually do this thing for real, or they buy the company that figures it out, it'll happen. That's how I see it.
In fact, just one small thing. As you mentioned, adaptability. I think government is one of the most slowest to adapt. So even in my office, I mean not our office, but everywhere in the world, we get these invoices which are digitally generated and digitally signed. But still, our payments department says, I need a seal and a sign on it. They just don't trust these, online invoices with whatever digital signature that we give. So there is that, trust deficit, if I may use that word. And they don't actually see that as a advanced technology. They see it like, oh, this could be a fraud, this could be a forgery. So, the trust has to develop. And as you mentioned, once the whole world gets into it, maybe the governments will slowly start to adapt.
So let me add that perspective from the supply chain standpoint, because healthcare supply chain is similar issues that you mentioned in pediatrics. I think you think about the trust is what is the largest friction today in a trade, right? 35% of the waste that is built in over $13 trillion of transaction is because the downstream person does not trust the upstream guy doesn't trust the following stream. So everybody has this intermediary that vouch for him before I transact with him, and they become the brokers, right? I think that is the last 400 years of the ecosystems post-colonial in which the trust was certified by some authenticated authority. They put a stamp and you'll trust, and that removes your doubts. I think we are today at the cusp of a disruption in which I think the trust becomes secondary or actually disappears from the vocabulary. Because you think about the provenance, I can today buy something and I don't need to know where it's made from as long as the transparency can be vouched by the simple checks and balances. I can design smart contracts and a distributed ledger that has a digital signature, almost foolproof, that ensures the entire value chain has a credential that I don't need to now have the brokers in between. That is a huge paradigm break, not a shift, but I think we are on the cusp of it, right? So for example, I just came this morning from the state of Port at Long Beach. The biggest focus of $3.5 billion, about $500 million is focused on the transparency. What is transparency? Is getting rid of the value of trust, because I am designing the system to guarantee the glass pipeline. Right? So I'm taking the human out of validating the trust between the two people, and I'm creating the system to actually be able to do that. 10 years ago, we used to call this digital transformations. It was half-baked. The cheesecake wasn't ready. Today, I think in this environment of multi-agentic framework, I feel very confident that trust will not be the vocabulary on the commerce side, including healthcare supply chains, to across all of them. Yes.
Yeah,
Finger
thank
crossed.
you, thank you. Any other questions? I have a question up here. I'll try to. Oh, yeah, the back buncher, yes, let's. Is that agenda? Yes. Oh, okay. Can someone walk up a mic? Okay. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So what you just said is just very, very interesting for me to kind of like, wrap my brains around, especially when it comes to supply chain and while you're adapting to this new technology, and this might be a little bit off topic, but how are you at the warp speed that you're moving to adapt technology and AI in supply chains? How are you adapting with the craziness with the trade, foreign trade, tariffs and all of that? Are you able to develop some systems that can help you mitigate some of these shocks in the foreign trade and foreign, policy that's happening right now? Are you able to use AI? Are you able to use new technology to be able to mitigate some of these shocks that are coming with us?
Thanks, Agenda. 1 minute answer, huh? So we can get more questions.
Absolutely. So I think the answer is yes. So at the Institute, we're doing 5 case studies from design to delivery value chain, one of which is multi-agentic digital twin. And this, unlike the digital twin of the past digital transformation models, these are capable of running the policy disruption and run the model of your network design instantaneously. So for example, this morning, President Trump said 25% additional tariff of any transaction that shows the trade with Iran. Now you may actually, India is an example, prime example. They do have a trade with, so does China. Now how do you actually take that transactions, and now all the goods coming out of those countries that they transact with Iran would have to be then taxed another additional 25% from the Customs and Border Protection. Guess what? Today, that capability is about to come to surface, where you can actually model those things in a very dynamic way to be able to respond to that. The next phase would be the system automatically, as soon as an announcement comes from the authenticated source, it will pivot and make the decision throughout the value chain, say, let's move from here to here, here to there, and can actually either co-pilot it or autonomously be able to adjust the entire network.
So you mean it'll take Truth Social as the input?
It can.
Does anybody have a question for the Consul General? Hold on 1 second. Is it for the CG?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me, sir? Yeah. So one thing I would love to see is have tracks at the actual summit held in an Indian language, where the discourse is in an Indian language, and hopefully that motivates people to be contributors into the system. Like, let's take UPI as an example. It took language out of the picture. It's all visual, mostly. While it has been a tremendous success and has empowered millions of people, it took language out of the picture completely. So people are not participants as contributors.
So we understand your question. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Thank you for that. A very good suggestion. In fact, we are doing about 4 such pre-summits, and the aim is to send these inputs back to India so that they are, added, if possible, into the whole summit agenda. So I will take care that this input is sent to India.
So let me be contrarian about that. Since I've spent the last 25 years looking at US, India, I would claim that soon English will be an Indian language. Think about that for a moment. There'll be more English speakers in India than anywhere else in the world, right?
I think it's already there.
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Bloom VC report about Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 India?
No.
You should probably look it up.
I'll
Bloom.vc.
look it up.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more question before we get to eat. Anybody?
Gunjan, I have a thought to share.
Thought to share. Hold
So
on, let me
since-
see if anybody has a question
Absolutely.
first. Okay. No? You do? Okay, you got the mic. Go ahead.
So I wanted to ask, what is the most expensive mistake of AI you have seen, and what did it teach you?
Expensive.
I
Good
don't
one.
know is it expensive or not, but I just had my class wrapped up in the fall, and I'd encourage the students to actually use the AI. But I told them the responsibility is yours about what you present the output to be. You have to own it. You cannot go back and blame the AI. Well, come to find out, about 40% of the references that they're cited, they were completely bogus.
Yep.
Right? I mean, so idea here is that you expect to integrate AI in your pedagogy and those things. Sometimes you take that as a face value. I think there's a lot of verifications and validation that needs to happen.
I have a small input on that. Recently, the Supreme Court of India banned all Indian lawyers from using ChatGPT or any of the AI inputs to submit their submissions to the court. Because recently there were 3 cases where these lawyers quoted cases which are all bogus. None of the cases ever existed. So it was like, a travesty of the whole system. So that's my small input on that.
We've had to.
Animesh.
Thank you. We've had to date, I'd say, 2 incidents. Thankfully, SEV 3, so it's a lower severity, not the whole system going down. Outages in common lingo, where our root cause analysis found out that it was because of AI-generated code that we hadn't tested properly. In my opinion, these rapidly mass AI code generation tools, they're exposing the immaturity that we have today in our guardrails, whether in society or code writing. And that's the part that we have to be very careful about, as in how do we construct those guardrails, wrangle it. And I'm going to segue that into the thought I had earlier. We talked about digital natives. Sabha had talked about people who are digital natives versus not. There's a new buzzword, AI native. The kids these days are growing up with AI. I have a different approach on that, especially from a cross-cultural perspective. In India, I would claim that for generations we have been agent native. My mom's dishwasher is a guy. We have a massive
Your dad,
bureaucracy that we learned from the British as to how to run. We intuitively know how to get others to take over some of our cognitive load and handle it. What remains to be done, though, is to parlay that gut feel into actual pedagogy and models. So this is where perhaps USC can help. People who build models and build curricula can assist the folks in India to unlock what's innately in them, to then guide these models, these agents, to then actually achieve outcome while also checking if the vessels have been washed correctly or not.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Small train of
Yes,
thought.
please. Go ahead.
So just I won't stand between you and dinner, but just a small thing on this AI summit that we are having in India. And as the representative from TCS was mentioning, there's a small study which says that over 20% of the human resources deployed across the world for AI are of Indian origin. And in India, that amounts to about 6 million people who are working right now on AI. And they are expected to contribute about $280 billion in revenue by end of this year. So what we are seeing also, the world is looking to India for investment into that AI infrastructure. You would have seen a couple of months ago, or maybe 6 weeks ago, Satya Nadella was in India. He announced a $17.5 billion investment into the AI and data infrastructure in India. I think the Google guys announced $15 billion. Amazon, the AWS announced about $12.5 billion. And
35 billion in total.
In total,
yeah, they wanted to double Microsoft.
So what we are seeing also is there's also a corresponding investment commitment by Reliance and other big giants from India. So what we are seeing is the trust factor in getting Indian human resource is increasing. We are also seeing that that the data infrastructure to be put in India is going to be, I think in the AI summit we are going to see much more of that. But this AI summit, friends, is basically trying to see if we can get to the practical aspect of AI, democratizing AI, and getting more ethical the aspect of AI into the picture. So I would urge all of you to see if you can be a part of this. And as I was mentioning earlier in my speech, this is not going to be just those 2 days. It has 1 week full of events, which is only for people like you who can be a participant in that particular summit. So please make the use of this opportunity and join us there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, panelists. I want to close on one note about India. AI requires a lot of power, right? India's 2 largest companies are transforming the state of Gujarat to have multi-gigawatt solar panels, solar farms installed. They're going to produce green hydrogen and build the data centers right there in Gujarat. It's a massive, massive effort. They'll be ready by 2030. So amazing stuff is happening. Thank you very much for putting up with us. Thank you, Nick. Thanks. Thank you so much, sir. Sure. I need to just make sure that I'm part of it.
Could you please wait for a few minutes? I want to make some closing remarks on behalf of the. Yanni. Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'm
No, in the center, yeah. Yeah, next to him.
Okay. Ah, okay.
Everyone this way, this way, this way. Like 5 feet this way.
Oh, like 5 feet.
This way, everyone get closer. This way. This way, this way. Almost there. Keep going, keep going, keep going. A little bit more. Right there, you don't move. Everyone else get closer. Right there is good. You two closer. Thank you. Awesome. Let me get 2 up higher. All right, here we go. And smile. 3, 2, 1, and 1 more. Thank you. Thank you. Very good.
All good things need to come to an end, especially when we are hungry. But before we go, I just want to acknowledge and thank a lot of the effort that went into establishing this, or making this happen. Firstly, thanks to Consul General Dr. K.J. Srinivas and his office, Vice Consul Priyanka Tyagi and Harita Mosali for sponsoring a lot of this evening today. We also want to thank USC, especially the Dean's Office, for providing this wonderful venue for this event. Also Gaurav Sukhatme, and especially Vice Dean Raghu, because he was very instrumental in actually organizing the USC panels here. We want to also thank all the panelists, all the efforts put by Shri and Gunjan and all the panelists. Also Prem Natarajan for his wonderful keynote. We also want to acknowledge the IIT Alumni Association and people who have helped behind the scenes set up this event. Dhanashri, I don't know where she is, but she was instrumental in. And then there's Raghav, also from USC, the Marshall School of Business student president, who actually helped cater all the dinner together today. Kanoj Kotla, CEO of KBK Technologies, for all the banners, badges, and supplies. All student volunteers, Siddharth Singaravel, Prabhu Nagunam, Akarsha Jain, Bhuvan Rajanahalti, and Karthik Maheshwari. Thank you for agreeing to come at a very short notice and help execute this event. Priyank?
From IIT SoCal chapter, I would like to thank USC for hosting. Parag, Raghu, thank you so much for pulling this off in such a short notice. Dr. Srinivas and Harita and Priyanka, all the help for planning this event. I would also like to announce one of the big events that IIT SoCal is organizing. It's a conference in April, IIT 2026. Our co-chair, Pramod Kunju, is here. So in the networking session, we're going to meet him and get more information. Please do join us, and you're going to have 3 days of a lot of conversations on AI and sustainability and everything else. So thank you for joining today. And you want to announce something? No, it's fine. Okay. Then I think we should be ready to get our networking and dinner ready. Please enjoy. Thank you.
And a big thank you to Smita for also organizing and helping on all this event.